to Kingdom of Ash and Secrets. Volume 1, Awakening, Chapter 1, The Morning Chaos. The bells woke Asher from a dream he couldn't quite remember. Not the gentle rhythmic chiming of the church bells that usually drifted through his window at dawn. These were different. Harsh. Frantic. The kind of sound that made your heart race before your mind even caught up. He opened his eyes to the slanted wooden ceiling of his attic room. Dust motes danced in the thin strip of early sunlight that cut through the gap in the shutters. The air was already thick with heat rising from the forge below. The bells kept ringing. Asher sat up, his thin blanket falling away. His mattress was little more than straw and cloth, lumpy in all the wrong places, but it was his. The whole room was his. 4 walls, a roof that only leaked when it really rained, and a window that looked out over the main street of Rathmore. For an 18-year-old orphan with no family and no prospects, it was more than most had. The bells grew louder, more insistent. He swung his legs off the mattress, and his feet hit the cold wooden floor. Despite the heat from below, the planks were always cold in the morning. He'd never understood why. Voices rose from the street, shouting, running footsteps. Asher stumbled to the window and pushed the shutters open. The street below was chaos. People were running in every direction, like ants from a kicked hill. Merchants abandoned their carts, leaving goods spilling into the dirt. A woman dragged 2 screaming children behind her, her face pale with fear. An old man tripped and fell, and 3 people trampled right over him without stopping. What the hell? Asher's mind raced. Fire? Invasion? Had the northern raiders finally pushed this far south? He grabbed his trousers from the floor where he'd dropped them last night and pulled them on, hopping on 1 foot. His shirt was somewhere under the bed. He found it, shook out something that might have been a dead spider, and yanked it over his head. The fabric was rough, worn thin from too many washings, and there was a tear near the shoulder he kept meaning to fix. His fingers fumbled with the laces at the collar. The bells. Those damned bells wouldn't stop. He took the narrow stairs down from the attic 2 at a time, his hand sliding along the rough wooden rail. His boots were by the door. He shoved his feet into them, not bothering with the laces. The blacksmith shop was already sweltering. The forge burned day and night, and old Gareth was standing in the wide doorway, his massive frame blocking most of the light. His arms were crossed over his barrel chest, and he was watching the chaos in the street with the same expression he wore when examining a badly made horseshoe. Disgust mixed with resignation. "About damn time you woke up, boy," Gareth said without turning around. "Thought you'd sleep through the whole thing." "What's going on?" Asher asked, still trying to catch his breath. His heart was pounding. "Justice, apparently." Gareth spat into the street. Or that's what they were calling it. "What are you talking about?" Gareth finally looked at him. The old man's face was all hard lines and scars, a lifetime of working with fire and metal etched into his skin. But his eyes were softer than his face suggested. Tired. "Royal Guards found someone last night," Gareth said. "Caught him using magic." Asher felt his stomach drop. The warmth in his chest, that strange heat he'd carried for as long as he could remember, suddenly felt like a brand. "Magic?" he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "That's impossible. Nobody's seen real magic in years. People think it's just stories." "Tell that to the poor bastard they burned alive in the square this morning." The words hit Asher like a fist. "They what?" "Burned him. At dawn. Made a whole spectacle of it. I didn't go, but I heard the screams from here." Gareth's jaw tightened. "They're saying he had marks on his skin, symbols, proof of dark magic." Asher's hand went instinctively to his chest, pressing against the fabric of his shirt. Beneath it, his skin was unmarked, but that warmth was there, always there. A gentle heat that never quite went away. He'd never told anyone about it. Not even Gareth, who'd given him work and a place to sleep when he had nothing. Some secrets were too dangerous to share. "They're searching houses now," Gareth continued, "going door to door, looking for anyone else who might be hiding it." "But that's insane," Asher said. "Most people don't even have magic. It's rare, and half the kingdom thinks it's just superstition anyway." "Doesn't matter what people think. Matters what the king thinks." Gareth uncrossed his arms and stepped back into the shop. "King Uldric's been paranoid about magic since before you were born. He banned it after what happened to the queen. Anyone caught using it gets the fire." Asher had heard the stories. Everyone had. Queen Eliza, King Uldric's wife, had died under mysterious circumstances 17 years ago. Some said it was illness. Others whispered about curses and dark magic. Whatever the truth, the king had declared magic illegal the day after her funeral. For nearly 2 decades, the law had been absolute. Practice magic, and you die. Stay inside today, Gareth said, moving toward the forge. Keep your head down. When the guards get worked up like this, they're not careful about who they accuse. Asher nodded, but he knew he wouldn't listen. Staying inside felt like hiding, and hiding felt like guilt. He stepped out into the street just as a group of young men came running past, shouting and laughing like they were on their way to a festival instead of fleeing an execution. Ash, there you are! Finn appeared out of the crowd, his grin wide and reckless. He was the same age as Asher, but carried himself like he owned the world. Taller, broader in the shoulders, with the kind of easy confidence that made people like him instantly. He was also an idiot, but Asher loved him anyway. You missed it, brother, Finn said, grabbing Asher's shoulder hard enough to make him stumble. You actually missed it. The whole damn thing. Missed what? A man being murdered? Murdered? Finn laughed. That's a strong word. Executed, maybe. And he deserved it. You should have seen him, Ash. They dragged him out of his house screaming. Had these weird black marks all over his arms, like tattoos, but wrong. Creepy as hell. Asher pulled away from Finn's grip. So they killed him for having tattoos. For having magic, dumbass. The marks were proof. Finn's grin faltered slightly. What's wrong with you? Why are you defending him? I'm not defending anyone. I'm just saying maybe we shouldn't celebrate burning people alive. Two more guys came up behind Finn. Asher recognized them both. Jory, short and stocky with a mean streak, and Cade, who was built like a damn ox and had the personality to match. Cade was the kind of guy people called an alpha, loud, aggressive, always looking for a fight or a girl or both. He made Asher's teeth hurt. Well, well, Cade said, looking Asher up and down. If it isn't the blacksmith's little helper, you look like shit, Ash. Thanks, you look like yourself. Jory snorted. Finn tried to hide a smile. Cade's expression darkened. You got a mouth on you today, huh? Just stating facts. You want to state some facts with your fists, or are you too much of a pussy for that? Asher met his eyes and didn't look away. He wasn't afraid of Cade. Maybe he should be. Cade had 6 inches and 40 pounds on him, and a reputation for putting people in the dirt. But fear had never been Asher's problem. Common sense, maybe, but not fear. I'm good, Asher said evenly, but thanks for the offer. Finn stepped between them, hands up. All right, everyone calm down. We're supposed to be celebrating, remember? They fried a magic user. That's a good thing. Is it? Asher asked quietly. Finn stared at him. Are you serious right now? Yes, it's a good thing. Magic is illegal. It's dangerous. It's the whole reason the kingdom's been cursed for the last 20 years. What curse? Things are fine. Fine. Ash, the crops fail every 3rd year. There are storms that come out of nowhere and level entire villages. People get sick with things the healers can't fix. That's not normal. That's magic poisoning the land. Asher wanted to argue, but he didn't have the words. Maybe Finn was right. Maybe magic was dangerous, or maybe fear just made people dangerous. Before he could respond, another bell rang out. This one was different, deeper, slower, the kind of sound that made everyone stop and listen. The crowd in the street went silent. Even Cade shut his mouth. A voice called out from somewhere up the road. Make way for the royal carriage. Asher's stomach tightened. People pressed themselves against the buildings, clearing the center of the street. Finn grabbed Asher's arm and pulled him back against the wall of the blacksmith shop. The sound of hooves echoed on the cobblestones. A royal guard appeared first, mounted on a massive black horse, his armor polished to a blinding shine. Behind him came the carriage, deep blue lacquered wood trimmed in gold, pulled by 4 white horses that looked like they'd never known a hard day's work. The royal crest was painted on the door. A crowned serpent coiled around a sword. Asher had seen it before, on flags and coins, but never this close. Holy shit, Finn whispered. Is that Princess Seraphina? Someone in the crowd murmured. Asher's breath caught. He'd never seen the princess. Few common people had. She lived in the palace on the hill, behind walls so high you couldn't see the top unless you were miles away. Rumors said she was beautiful, cold, untouchable, that she could kill a man with a look. Other rumors said she was kind, that she snuck food to the poor, that she hated her father's cruelty. Asher had never known which stories to believe. The carriage stopped in the center of the street, just a few feet from where Asher stood pressed against the wall. The guard dismounted and opened the door. A hand appeared first, slender fingers, pale skin. Then a boot, polished black leather. Then the rest of her. Asher forgot how to breathe. She was beautiful, but not in the delicate, fragile way he'd imagined princesses to be. She was sharp edges and confidence, with dark hair pulled back from a face that could have been carved from marble. High cheekbones, full lips, and eyes that seemed to see straight through the crowd. Her dress was deep green, simpler than he'd expected, but she wore it like armor. She moved like she owned the ground she walked on. Like everyone watching was just a backdrop to her story. "Damn," Finn breathed. "I'd let her ruin my entire life." "You'd be lucky if she even noticed you," Cade muttered. "Neither of you would last 5 seconds with a woman like that," Jory added. Asher didn't say anything. He couldn't stop staring. The princess stepped onto a raised platform that had been set up in the square. Asher realized this wasn't a random visit. This was planned, prepared, a performance. Her voice rang out, clear and strong, carrying over the silent crowd. "People of Rathmore." Every head turned toward her. "This morning, justice was served. A practitioner of forbidden magic was discovered within our walls and dealt with according to the law my father, King Aldrich, set forth to protect you." Her words were measured, rehearsed, but there was something underneath them. An edge Asher couldn't quite name. "Magic is a poison," she continued. "It corrupts the land, it corrupts the soul, it destroys everything it touches. The ban exists not as cruelty, but as mercy. To protect you, to protect this kingdom from the curse that has plagued us for generations." The crowd murmured agreement. Some nodded, others just looked scared. Asher felt the warmth in his chest grow hotter. His heart pounded against his ribs. Was he corrupted? Was he poison? He didn't feel like a curse. The princess's gaze swept across the crowd, and for just a moment her eyes landed on him. Time stopped. It was brief. A second, maybe less. But in that second, Asher felt something shift. A pull in his chest, right where the warmth lived. Like a string had been tied between them and pulled tight. Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition? Confusion? Then she looked away, and the moment shattered. Asher sucked in a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "What the hell was that?" Finn whispered. "What?" "She looked right at you, man. Right at you." "No, she didn't." "She definitely did," Cade said, and for once he didn't sound mocking. He sounded impressed. "Princess just eye-fucked you in front of the whole town." "Shut up," Asher muttered, his face heating. The princess continued her speech, her voice steady and commanding. "If you see anything suspicious, report it to the guards. Your loyalty will be rewarded. Your silence will be considered complicity, and complicity will be punished as harshly as the crime itself." A chill ran through the crowd. She was threatening them. Politely, elegantly, but threatening them nonetheless. The princess stepped down from the platform, and the guard moved to escort her back to the carriage. But before she reached the door, she paused, turned, and looked directly at Asher again. This time, she held his gaze. Her lips parted slightly, like she was about to say something. Her brow furrowed, just a fraction. Then the guard cleared his throat, and the moment was gone. She climbed into the carriage without another glance. The door closed. The horses started forward. The crowd began to disperse. Asher stood frozen against the wall, his heart hammering so hard he thought his ribs might crack. Finn shoved him hard. "Dude, what the actual hell just happened?" "I don't know." "She looked at you twice. Maybe she thought I looked suspicious." "Or maybe she thought you looked hot," Cade said with a smirk. "Not that it matters. You'd never get within 10 feet of her. Girls like that don't go for skinny blacksmith boys with no money and no future." Asher barely heard him. His mind was racing. The warmth in his chest was still there, stronger now, almost burning. What was that? Why did she look at him like that? And why did it feel like his entire world had just tilted off its axis? "Come on," Finn said, pulling on his arm. "Let's get out of here before the guards decide to start searching people. You look guilty as hell right now." Asher let himself be dragged away, his legs moving on autopilot. But he couldn't stop thinking about her. The princess, Seraphina, and the way her eyes had locked onto his like she'd been searching for him her whole life. End of Chapter 1, Chapter 2. Hidden Scars. Asher spent the rest of the morning trying to act normal, which was impossible when nothing felt normal anymore. The warmth in his chest wouldn't fade. It pulsed with every heartbeat, a constant reminder that he was one mistake away from being the next person burned in the square. He tried to work. Gareth had a pile of orders that needed finishing. Horseshoes, nails, a set of hinges for the baker's new oven. Simple stuff. The kind of work Asher could do with his eyes closed. Except today, he couldn't focus. His hands shook as he lifted the hammer. The metal slipped from the tongs twice. He nearly put his palm down on the anvil while a piece of red-hot iron was still cooling on it. "Boy, what the hell is wrong with you?" Gareth barked from across the forge. Asher set down the hammer. "Nothing, just tired." "Tired? You slept until the damn bells woke you." Gareth wiped his hands on his apron and walked over, squinting at him. You sick? No? Then what? Asher couldn't meet his eyes. Just thinking about this morning. The execution. Gareth's expression softened slightly. Yeah, that was ugly business. He picked up the hammer Asher had dropped and tested its weight. But it's the law, has been for as long as you've been alive. Magic users know the risk. What if he didn't know? Asher asked quietly. What if he didn't even realize he had magic until it was too late? Then he should have been more careful. Gareth set the hammer down and crossed his arms. Look, I don't like it any more than you do, but King Aldrich isn't going to change his mind. Not after what happened to the Queen. So the best thing people like us can do is keep our heads down and stay out of it. People like us. Gareth meant commoners, people with no power, no voice, no choice but to survive however they could. But Asher heard something else in those words. People like us, people with secrets. Did Gareth know? Had he seen something, noticed something over the years? No, impossible. Asher had been so careful. Go take a break, Gareth said, turning back to his own work. You're useless like this anyway. Get some air. Clear your head. Come back when you can hold a hammer without dropping it. Asher nodded and stepped out into the street. The chaos from earlier had settled into an uneasy calm. People were back at their stalls, but they moved quietly, speaking in low voices. Guards patrolled in pairs, watching everyone with suspicion. Asher kept his head down and walked. He didn't have a destination in mind. He just needed to move, to burn off the nervous energy crawling under his skin. The streets of Rathmore were narrow and winding, built centuries ago when the city was just a trading post. Now it was the third largest city in the kingdom, packed with people from every corner of the realm. Asher had lived here his whole life, or at least as much of it as he could remember. His earliest memory was of sleeping in an alley, cold and hungry, maybe 5 or 6 years old. No parents, no family, just him and the streets. He'd survived by stealing food, running errands for merchants, sleeping wherever he could find shelter. It was Gareth who'd finally taken him in when he was 12, given him work and a roof and something close to stability. Asher owed him everything, which was why he could never tell him about the warmth, about the strange things that sometimes happened when he got scared or angry, like the time a drunk had cornered him in an alley and tried to rob him. Asher had shoved him away, and the man's shirt had caught fire, just burst into flames for no reason. The drunk had run screaming, and Asher had fled in the opposite direction, his hands shaking, his chest burning with that same warmth. Or the time he'd cut his hand on a piece of broken glass, a deep gash that should have needed stitches. But by the next morning, it was just a faint pink line, healed. He'd told himself it was luck, coincidence, but deep down, he knew the truth. He had magic. And if anyone found out, he was dead. Asher turned down a side street, away from the main market. The buildings here were older, crumbling in places, with laundry strung between windows and children playing in the dirt. A girl, maybe 10 years old, sat on a doorstep crying. Her knee was scraped and bleeding, and she clutched it with both hands. Asher slowed. He should keep walking, mind his own business, but he couldn't. He crouched down in front of her. Hey, you all right? She looked up, tears streaking her dirty face. I fell. Yeah, I can see that. He glanced at the scrape. It wasn't deep, but it was bleeding pretty good. Where's your mum? Inside, but she's busy with the baby. Asher hesitated. Then he pulled a relatively clean cloth from his pocket and pressed it gently against her knee. Hold this here. It'll stop bleeding in a minute. The girl sniffled and took the cloth. Asher's hand hovered over the scrape. The warmth in his chest pulsed, and he felt it move down his arm, into his palm. No, don't. But the urge was too strong. He let his fingers brush the edge of the wound just for a second. Heat flooded through him. The girl gasped. When he pulled his hand away, the bleeding had stopped. The scrape was still there, but it looked days old instead of fresh. The edges were already starting to close. The girl stared at her knee, then at Asher. How did you... Keep pressure on it, Asher said quickly, standing up. You'll be fine. He walked away before she could ask questions, his heart pounding. Stupid. That was so stupid. What if someone had seen? What if she told her mother, and her mother told the guards? He turned another corner, then another, putting distance between himself and his mistake. Finally, he stopped in a small square he'd always liked. There was a fountain in the center, old and cracked but still working. Water trickled from the mouth of a stone fish, filling a basin below. Asher sat on the edge and put his head in his hands. This was getting worse. The warmth, the pull to use it, the way it seemed to respond to his emotions. He couldn't keep it hidden forever. You look like a man with problems." Asher's head snapped up. An old woman stood a few feet away, leaning on a wooden cane. She was tiny, hunched with age, her face a map of wrinkles. But her eyes were sharp, almost unnervingly so. "I'm fine," Asher said. "Liar." She shuffled closer and sat down beside him without asking. "You've got the look, haunted, scared, like you're carrying something heavy." Asher stared at her. "Do I know you?" "No, but I know you." She smiled, and it wasn't a comforting expression. "Or at least, I know what you are." His blood went cold. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." She tapped his chest with one bony finger, right over his heart, right where the warmth lived. "You've got it in you. The gift, the curse, whichever you want to call it." Asher stood up so fast he nearly tripped over his own feet. "You're crazy." "Maybe, but I'm also right." She looked up at him, unbothered by his panic. "Sit down, boy. I'm not going to turn you in." "I don't." "Sit." There was a weight to her voice that made him obey before he could think about it. He sat. The old woman studied him for a long moment, her head tilted like a bird examining a bug. "How long have you known?" she asked. Asher's throat was dry. Don't lie to me. I can see it all over you. You're burning up from the inside. I'm surprised no one else has noticed." His hands clenched into fists. "Who are you?" "My name's Moira, and before you ask, yes, I have magic too. Had it my whole life. Managed not to get burned for it, which is more than most can say." Asher looked around frantically. The square was empty except for them, but that could change any second. "Relax," Moira said. "No one's listening. And even if they were, they'd just see an old woman talking to herself. People don't pay attention to the old and the poor. We're invisible. If you have magic, why are you telling me? I could report you." She laughed, a dry, crackling sound. "You won't, because then you'd have to explain how you knew. And that'd lead to questions you don't want to answer." She was right. Damn it, she was right. "What do you want?" Asher asked. "To warn you." Moira's smile faded. "Whatever you felt this morning when the princess looked at you, that wasn't coincidence." Asher's stomach dropped. "How do you—" "I was there. In the crowd, I saw the way she stared at you, the way you stared back." Moira leaned closer. "She's got magic too, boy, just like you, just like me." "That's impossible. She's the princess. Her father is the one who banned magic." "Which makes it all the more dangerous, doesn't it?" Moira tapped her cane against the ground. "King Aldrich's been hunting magic users for 17 years. You think he'd stop just because his own daughter has it? Then why isn't she dead? Because she's useful. Because he's afraid of what would happen if he killed her. Because the curse that's eating this kingdom alive is connected to her, and he knows it." Moira shook her head. "But that doesn't mean she's safe. She's a prisoner in that palace, a pretty bird in a gilded cage." Asher didn't know what to say. This was too much, too insane. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're connected to her now. I saw it. That pull between you. It's not just attraction, boy. It's magic recognizing magic, like calling to like." Moira stood up, leaning heavily on her cane. "She's going to seek you out, sooner or later, and when she does, you're going to have a choice to make." "What choice?" "Whether to run and save yourself, or stay and damn yourself for her." She started to shuffle away, then paused. "For what it's worth, I hope you choose wisely. This kingdom needs people like you, people who haven't given up yet." "Wait," Asher called. "How do I find you again?" Moira glanced back, and for just a second her eyes seemed to glow with a faint silver light. "You don't. I'll find you when the time's right." Then she was gone, disappearing into the shadows of a side alley like she'd never been there at all. Asher sat alone by the fountain, his mind reeling. Princess Seraphina had magic. The king knew. The kingdom was cursed. And somehow Asher was connected to all of it. He wanted to believe Moira was just a crazy old woman, but the warmth in his chest told him she was telling the truth, and that terrified him more than anything. End of Chapter 2. Chapter 3. The Gilded Cage. Seraphina hated the palace. She knew she wasn't supposed to. It was beautiful after all. Marble floors polished to a mirror shine. Tapestries that cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Gardens so perfect they looked like paintings. But beauty didn't make it less of a prison. She walked through the east corridor, her footsteps echoing off the high ceilings. 2 guards followed at a respectful distance. They always followed. Every room, every hallway, every moment of her life. Protection, her father called it. She called it surveillance. Her chambers were in the north wing, far from the throne room and her father's offices. The door was carved from dark wood, imported from the southern forests, inlaid with gold in patterns that were supposed to represent peace and prosperity. More lies. She pushed the door open and dismissed the guards with a wave. They bowed and took up positions on either side of the doorway. Inside, her private chambers were exactly as she'd left them that morning. The bed was made with silk sheets in deep purple. Her desk was cluttered with books she wasn't supposed to read. The balcony doors were open, letting in warm afternoon air. And sitting in the chair by the window was Lyra, her handmaiden and the closest thing she had to a friend. "Well?" Lyra asked, looking up from the embroidery in her lap. "How was the performance?" Sera closed the door and leaned against it. "Exhausting. Did they believe you?" "They always believe me. I'm very convincing when I need to be." Sera crossed to her desk and began pulling pins from her hair. It fell in dark waves around her shoulders, and she immediately felt like she could breathe again. Lyra set aside her embroidery. She was small and quick, with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. She'd been assigned to Sera 3 years ago, but somewhere along the way she'd become more than just a servant. She'd become the only person in the palace Sera could trust. "You look troubled," Lyra said. "I'm always troubled. It's my natural state. More than usual, I mean." Sera sank into the chair across from her and closed her eyes. The speech that morning had gone exactly as planned. She'd said all the right words, made all the right gestures. The people of Rathmore had listened, nodded, believed. But there had been a moment, a single moment when everything had tilted sideways, when she'd looked into the crowd and seen him. "There was a boy," Sera said quietly. Lyra's eyebrows rose. "A boy? In the crowd? I don't know who he was, just some commoner. But when I looked at him, I felt something." "Felt what?" Sera opened her eyes and stared at her hands. "Heat, like a fire in my chest. It only lasted a second, but it was so strong, I almost lost my place in the speech." Lyra went very still. "Sera, that sounds like—" "I know what it sounds like." Sera stood up and began pacing. "But it doesn't make sense. I've been around people my whole life, thousands of them, and I've never felt anything like that before. Maybe he has magic too." The words hung in the air between them. Sera's hands clenched into fists. "If he does, he won't have it for long. My father's guards are still searching the city. If they find even a hint of magic on him, they'll burn him, just like they burned that man this morning. Then we should warn him. Warn him. I don't even know his name. And even if I did, how exactly would I send a message? Have a royal courier knock on his door and tell him the princess thinks he might be in danger?" Sera shook her head. "That would just guarantee his arrest." Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You could go back." "What? Into the city? You've done it before." Sera had, many times, disguised in plain clothes, hood up, slipping past the guards who were supposed to be watching her. It was the only time she felt free. The only time she could walk through streets and markets and actually talk to people without a script. But it was also incredibly dangerous. If her father found out, she didn't know what he'd do. Lock her in her chambers, probably. Double the guards. Maybe worse. "It's too risky," Sera said. "Since when do you care about risk?" "Since they started burning people alive in the streets." Lyra stood and walked over to her. She was a full head shorter than Sera, but somehow she always made Sera feel like the smaller one. "You've been locked in this palace your whole life," Lyra said. "You follow every rule, play every part, say every line your father gives you. And for what? So he can keep pretending you're the perfect princess while he hunts down everyone like you? I don't have a choice." "There's always a choice. You're just afraid to make it." Sera wanted to argue, but the words wouldn't come. Because Lyra was right. She was afraid. Afraid of her father. Afraid of what he'd do if he found out the truth. Afraid of the magic that burned inside her, growing stronger every year, harder to control. Afraid that one day she'd slip, and everyone would see her for what she really was. A monster, just like the people her father burned. "What if I hurt someone?" Sera whispered. "What if I lose control and people get hurt?" Lyra took her hands. "You won't. You're the most controlled person I've ever met. Sometimes I think you're too controlled." "That's because I have to be." A knock on the door made them both jump. Sera quickly pulled her hands away and straightened her dress. "Come in." One of the guards stepped inside and bowed. "Your Highness, the king requests your presence in the throne room." Sera's stomach sank. "Now?" "Yes, Your Highness." She glanced at Lyra, who gave her a small, encouraging nod. "Tell him I'll be there shortly," Sera said. The guard bowed again and left. Sera moved to the mirror and began pinning her hair back up. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she forced them steady. "What do you think he wants?" Lyra asked. "Nothing good, She finished with her hair, smoothed her dress, and took a deep breath. Then she walked out of her chambers and through the palace, every step measured and perfect, until she reached the massive doors of the throne room. The guards opened them without a word. Inside, the throne room was as cold and imposing as ever. High vaulted ceilings, stained glass windows that cast colored light across the floor. And at the far end, sitting on a throne of black stone, was her father, King Aldrich. He was a hard man. Tall, broad-shouldered, with iron-grey hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. He wore the crown like it was part of his skull, a piece of him that could never be removed. Sera approached and curtsied. "You summoned me, father." "I did." His voice was deep, authoritative, the kind of voice that expected obedience. "Your speech this morning was adequate." Adequate, the highest praise he ever gave. "Thank you," Sera said. "However, I've received reports that you seemed distracted during the address. Is there something I should know about?" Sera kept her expression neutral. "No, father. I was simply moved by the situation. The execution was necessary, but it's never pleasant to witness justice being served in such a manner." He studied her for a long moment. His eyes were the same color as hers, dark and sharp, but there was no warmth in them. There never had been. "Good," he finally said. "I'm glad you understand the necessity. Magic is a disease, Seraphina. It corrupts everything it touches. That's why we must be vigilant, why we must root it out wherever it hides." The irony of his words wasn't lost on her. He was lecturing her about the dangers of magic while she stood there, burning with it. Did he know? Had he always known? She'd never been sure. "I understand, father. I hope you do. Because there are rumors." He leaned forward slightly. "Rumors that magic is returning to the kingdom. That more people are manifesting abilities. The man we executed this morning was the third one this month." Third. Sera's heart clenched. She'd only known about 2. "That's troubling," she said carefully. "It is, which is why I'm increasing patrols in all major cities. I'm also issuing a new decree. Anyone found harboring or assisting a magic user will be executed alongside them. No exceptions." The words hit her like a physical blow. No exceptions. That meant if anyone found out about her, everyone who'd ever helped her would die. Lyra, her tutors, the guards who'd looked the other way when she snuck out, all of them. "Do you approve?" her father asked. She forced herself to nod. "Of course. We must protect the kingdom. Yes, we must." He sat back, apparently satisfied. "You're dismissed." "But Seraphina," she paused at the door. "Yes, father. I'm proud of you. You've become everything I hoped you would be. Strong, loyal, unburdened by the weaknesses that destroyed your mother." The mention of her mother was like a knife between her ribs. Queen Eliza had died when Sera was only a year old. She didn't remember her at all, just stories and portraits. But she'd heard the rumors, the whispers that her mother had magic, that it had driven her mad, that the king had been the one to end her life, not some mysterious illness. "Thank you, father," Sera managed. Then she left, walking as calmly as she could until she was back in her chambers. The moment the door closed, she collapsed against it. Lyra rushed over. "What happened?" "He's getting worse, more paranoid, more ruthless." Sera pressed her hands to her face. 3 magic users this month, Lyra. 3, and he's going to keep hunting until there's no one left. Then we have to do something." "Like what?" "I can't stop him. I can't even tell him the truth without signing my own death warrant." "Then maybe the truth isn't what we use." Lyra pulled her over to the chairs. "Maybe we find another way." "What other way?" "I don't know yet, but there has to be something. Some way to change things without getting everyone killed." Sera wanted to believe her, but belief felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. She thought about the boy from the market, the one with the kind face and the fire in his chest that matched hers. Was he still alive? Or had the guards already found him? The thought made her chest ache. "I need to know," Sera said suddenly. "Know what?" "If he's all right, the boy from this morning. I need to know if my father's guards got to him." Lyra looked at her carefully. "And if they didn't?" "Then I need to warn him before it's too late." "Sera, that's dangerous, stupid, reckless." "I know." She met Lyra's eyes. "But I can't just sit here and do nothing while people die for something they can't control. Not anymore." Lyra was quiet for a long moment, then she sighed. "All right. But we do this smart. No rushing in. We plan it properly." "Agreed." "And you let me come with you?" "Absolutely not. Not negotiable. You're not going into the city alone." Sera wanted to argue, but she knew Lyra well enough to know when she'd already lost. "Fine. But we go tonight, before my father tightens security any further." Lyra nodded. Tonight then. They spent the rest of the afternoon planning. Routes through the palace that avoided the most guards. Clothes that would help them blend in. A cover story in case they were caught. By the time the sun set, Sera was ready. Or as ready as she'd ever be. She changed into a simple brown dress, one of the plain ones Lyra had smuggled in from the city. She pulled a dark cloak over it and tied her hair back. In the mirror, she looked like anyone else. Just another girl. Not a princess. Not a weapon her father had spent years shaping. Just Sera. She liked that version of herself better. "Ready?" Lyra whispered. Sera nodded. They slipped out of the chambers through a servant's entrance, down a back staircase, through a corridor that smelled like old stone and secrets. The palace was huge, and Sera had spent 17 years learning its hidden paths. They made it to the outer wall without being seen. Lyra produced a key she'd stolen from one of the groundskeepers and unlocked a small gate hidden behind a hedge, and then they were out. Free. Sera breathed in the night air and felt something inside her loosen. "Come on," Lyra said, "before someone notices we're gone." They made their way down the hill into the sleeping city. Sera didn't know where to find the boy. She didn't even know his name. But somehow she knew she'd find him. The magic in her chest pulled like a compass pointing north, and she followed it into the dark. End of Chapter 3. Chapter 4, Under the Moon. Asher couldn't sleep. He'd tried. Went back to the forge, worked until his arms ached, ate a tasteless dinner of bread and cheese, climbed the stairs to his attic room, and lay down on his mattress. But sleep wouldn't come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. The Princess Seraphina. The way she'd looked at him, like she could see straight through his skin to the secret burning underneath. And then there was Moira's warning. The old woman's words kept circling through his mind like vultures. "She's got magic too. You're connected now. She's going to seek you out." Asher sat up and ran his hands through his hair. This was insane, all of it. A princess with magic, a kingdom under a curse, a mysterious old woman who could apparently see things no one else could. And him, right in the middle of it, with a secret that could get him killed. He stood up and moved to the window. The street below was empty. Most of Rathmore was asleep. Only a few lanterns still burned in distant windows. The moon was full tonight, hanging low and heavy in the sky. It cast everything in silver light. Asher pushed the window open wider and leaned out, letting the cool night air wash over him. He needed to think, to figure out what to do. Running was an option. He could leave Rathmore, head to one of the smaller towns where no one knew him, start over. But running meant leaving Gareth, leaving the only stability he'd ever known. And for what? To spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, waiting for the moment someone discovered what he was? No. Running wasn't the answer, but staying felt just as dangerous. A sound from the street below made him freeze. Footsteps, quiet, careful, like someone trying not to be heard. Asher leaned further out and looked down. Two figures moved through the shadows. Both wore dark cloaks with hoods up. But something about the way they moved caught his attention. One of them looked up. Even in the moonlight, even with the hood shadowing her face, Asher recognized her instantly. The princess. His heart stopped. What the hell was she doing here? She said something to the person beside her, then pointed directly at his window. At him. Asher jerked back, his pulse racing. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. A moment later, he heard footsteps on the stairs. Soft, but coming closer. He looked around his room frantically. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. The only way out was the window, and he was 3 stories up. A knock on his door, 3 soft taps. Asher stood frozen. Another knock, a little more insistent. Then a voice, female, quiet but clear. "I know you're in there. Please, I just want to talk." It was her. The princess was standing outside his door. Asher's mind raced. If he didn't answer, she might get the guards. If he did answer, he might say something stupid and get himself arrested anyway. But something in her voice made him move. He crossed to the door and opened it a crack. She stood in the narrow hallway, hood still up, but close enough now that he could see her face clearly. She was even more beautiful than she'd been this morning, and she looked scared. "Can I come in?" she asked. Asher glanced past her. Another figure stood at the top of the stairs, smaller, a woman he thought also hooded. "Is this a trap?" he asked. "No, I swear." She pushed her hood back and her dark hair spilled around her shoulders. "Please, I need to talk to you. It's important." Against every instinct screaming at him to slam the door, Asher stepped aside. She slipped into the room and the other woman followed, closing the door behind them. Asher's tiny attic suddenly felt impossibly small. The princess looked around, taking in the cramped space, the thin mattress, the single chair, the handful of belongings he owned. "You live here?" she asked. "Not all of us get palaces," Asher said, more defensively than he meant to. The other woman pulled back her hood. She was young, maybe a year or two older than Asher, with sharp features and sharper eyes. "Lyra," she said by way of introduction. "I'm Sera's handmaiden. And before you ask, yes, this is completely insane, and yes, we could both be executed if anyone finds out we're here." "Sera?" Asher looked at the princess. "It's what my friends call me," she said quietly. "If I had any." There was something sad in the way she said it. Asher crossed his arms. "Why are you here?" "Because this morning, when I looked at you, I felt something, and I think you felt it too." His chest tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." Sera stepped closer. "Heat. Like fire in your chest. A pull, like something inside you recognized something inside me." Asher's jaw clenched. "You should leave." "I'm not here to turn you in," Sera said quickly. "I'm here to warn you. My father has increased patrols. He's searching for magic users, and he won't stop until he finds them. If you have magic, you need to be more careful. You need to— I don't have magic." "Don't lie to me." Her eyes flashed. "I can feel it on you. The same way you can probably feel it on me." "A distant has." The room went silent. Asher stared at her. "What did you just say?" "I have magic," Sera said, and the words seemed to cost her something. "I've had it my whole life. Hidden it, controlled it, pretended it didn't exist. But it does. And so does yours." Lyra moved to the window and peered out, keeping watch. Asher felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. "You're the princess. Your father is the one burning people for having magic. How can you—" "I know. It's complicated." Sera's hands twisted together. "He doesn't know about me. At least, I don't think he does. But if he found out, I don't know what he'd do. Lock me up, kill me, use me, nothing good. Then why are you telling me?" "Because I think we're connected somehow. I've never felt anything like what I felt this morning. And an old woman I trust told me that when magic users find each other, it means something. That we're stronger together than apart." Asher thought of Moira. "Old woman? What did she look like?" "I don't know. I never met her. My mother told me about her before she died." Sera paused. "Why?" "I met an old woman today, said her name was Moira. She told me the same thing, that you and I were connected, that you'd come looking for me." Sera's eyes widened. "She's still alive? Moira is still alive? You know her?" "My mother knew her. Moira was her teacher before my father banned magic, before everything went wrong." Sera moved closer, and Asher could smell something like jasmine and smoke. "What else did she tell you? That the kingdom is cursed, that you're connected to it somehow, that I'd have to make a choice." "What choice? Run and save myself, or stay and damn myself for you?" The words hung in the air between them. Sera's expression shifted, surprise, then something else, something warmer. "And what did you choose?" she asked softly. "I'm still here, aren't I?" Lyra cleared her throat from the window. "This is very romantic and everything, but we don't have a lot of time. The guard shifts change in an hour, and we need to be back before anyone notices we're gone." Sera didn't look away from Asher. "I need to know if you'll help me." "Help you do what?" "Figure out what's happening, why the magic is coming back stronger, why my father is so desperate to destroy it, what the curse really is." She took a breath. "I can't do it alone. I've been alone my whole life, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of watching people die for something they can't control." Asher wanted to say no, wanted to tell her this was crazy and dangerous, and he wanted no part of it. But he couldn't. Because everything she was saying, he felt it too. The loneliness, the fear, the exhaustion of always hiding. "What would I have to do?" he asked. "Meet with me, share what you know, help me research the curse and the history of magic in this kingdom. And maybe, if we're lucky, find a way to stop my father before he kills everyone like us. And if we're not lucky?" Sera's smile was sad. "Then we die together instead of alone." Which honestly sounds better than the alternative. Lyra snorted. "You two are made for each other, both absolutely terrible at self-preservation." Asher looked at Sera, really looked at her. She was the princess, royalty. Completely out of his reach in every possible way. But she was also just a girl, scared and alone and desperate for something real, just like him. "All right," he said. "I'll help you." Relief flooded Sera's face. "Thank you. But I have conditions." "Such as?" "We do this carefully, no unnecessary risks. And if it gets too dangerous, if your father gets too close, we stop. I'm not dying for a lost cause. Fair enough. And you have to be honest with me. No royal secrets, no half-truths. If we're doing this, we do it together. Sera extended her hand. Deal. Asher took it. The moment their skin touched, heat flooded through him. The warmth in his chest flared so bright he almost gasped. Sera felt it too. Her eyes went wide, her fingers tightening around his. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Lyra spoke up, her voice tight. Guys, we have a problem. They broke apart. What? Sera asked. Torches, coming up the street. Lyra pointed down. 4 of them, and they're wearing the Royal Guard's colors. Asher's blood went cold. He moved to the window and looked out. She was right. 4 guards moving methodically through the street, knocking on doors, searching. How did they know? Sera breathed. They didn't, Lyra said. This is just bad timing. They're doing random sweeps now, remember? Your father's new orders. We need to leave, now. Sera pulled her hood back up. They'll see you on the stairs, Asher said. This building only has 1 exit. Then we go out the window. We're 3 stories up. Do you have a better idea? Asher looked around frantically, then his eyes landed on the roof beam above his bed. Maybe, but you're not going to like it. 5 minutes later, they were crouched on the roof of the blacksmith shop, the tiles still warm from the day's heat. Asher had boosted Sera up first, then Lyra, then hauled himself up after them. Below, they could hear the guards entering the building, their heavy boots on the stairs. Now what? Lyra whispered. We wait, Asher said. When they clear out, you 2 head back to the palace. And you? Sera asked. I'll be fine. I've slept on roofs before. She looked like she wanted to argue, but voices from below made her fall silent. They lay flat against the tiles, barely breathing. Minutes crawled by like hours. Finally, the guards emerged, empty-handed, and moved on to the next building. Sera let out a shaky breath. That was too close. Welcome to my life, Asher muttered. Lyra stood carefully, testing her footing. We need to go. We've been gone too long already. Sera nodded, but she looked at Asher. How do I find you again? You don't. I'll find you. How? I don't know yet, but I will. He met her eyes. I promise. She smiled, and it transformed her face. Made her look less like a princess and more like a girl who'd just found something she'd been searching for her whole life. Be careful, she said. You too. Then she and Lyra were gone, slipping across the rooftops like shadows, disappearing into the night. Asher lay back against the tiles and stared up at the moon. What the hell had he just agreed to? He was going to help the princess uncover a conspiracy, research forbidden magic, and probably get himself killed in the process. And the worst part? He was actually looking forward to it. End of Chapter 4, Chapter 5. The market day. 3 days passed, and Asher didn't hear from Sera. He told himself that was good, that it meant she was safe, hidden behind the palace walls where her father couldn't discover what she was. But it also drove him crazy. Every time someone walked past the forge, he looked up, half expecting to see her dark cloak and hidden face. Every night, he lay awake listening for footsteps on the stairs. Nothing. Just silence and the usual rhythm of life in Rathmore. Gareth noticed. You've been jumpy, the blacksmith said on the 3rd morning, watching Asher fumble with a set of tongs for the 2nd time. Something bothering you? No, just tired. Tired, right. Gareth set down his hammer and crossed his massive arms. You've been tired for 3 days. You've barely eaten. You keep staring at the door like you're expecting someone. What's going on? Asher forced himself to focus on the horseshoe he was shaping. Nothing, I'm fine. You're a terrible liar, boy. Always have been. The horseshoe was the wrong shape. Asher cursed and shoved it back into the coals. Gareth walked over and put a hand on his shoulder. It was heavy but not unkind. Listen, the old man said quietly. I don't know what you've gotten yourself into, and I'm not asking, but whatever it is, be careful. These are dangerous times. The king's getting more paranoid by the day. People are disappearing. And if you're involved in something you shouldn't be, it's only a matter of time before it catches up with you. Asher looked at him, at this man who'd given him everything. A job, a home, a chance. Did he know? Had he figured it out? I'll be careful, Asher said. Gareth studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Good, because I'd hate to lose you. You're a pain in the ass, but you're the closest thing I've got to family. Something tight formed in Asher's throat. You too. Gareth patted his shoulder once more, then went back to his own work. Asher returned to the horseshoe, but his mind was elsewhere. He needed to see Sera again, needed to know she was all right, needed to figure out what they were supposed to do next. But how the hell was he supposed to get a message to a princess? The answer came later that afternoon, in the form of Finn bursting into the forge with his usual terrible timing. "Ash, you busy?" Asher looked up from the blade he was grinding. "Does it look like I'm busy?" "Great, because you're coming with me. I'm working." "Take a break, Gareth won't care." Gareth looked up from across the forge. "Actually, I do care." "Please?" Finn gave him an exaggerated pleading look. "It's important. Life and death, really." "Your idea of life and death usually involves a girl or a bad bet. This time it's both." Finn grinned. "Market day. All the girls will be there, including that blonde from the bakery who keeps pretending she doesn't notice you." Asher had no idea who he was talking about. "I need to finish this order." "Come on, man. You've been weird for days. You need to get out, clear your head. Remember what it's like to have fun." Asher wanted to say no, but the truth was, Finn was right. He had been cooped up, anxious, waiting. Maybe getting out would help, and the market would be crowded, public, safe. "Fine," Asher said, setting down his tools. 1 hour, that's it. Finn punched the air. "Yes, Gareth, I'm stealing your apprentice." "Bring him back in one piece," Gareth said without looking up. "And if he comes back drunk, you're both fired." They left the forge and headed toward the market square. Rathmore's market was held every 5th day, and it transformed the center of the city into chaos. Merchants set up stalls selling everything from fresh bread to stolen goods. Street performers juggled and sang. Children ran wild while their parents haggled over prices. It was loud and crowded and full of life. Asher had always liked it, even if he rarely had money to spend. Today, the square was packed. It seemed like half the city had turned out. "See," Finn said, spreading his arms. "This is what you've been missing. Sunshine, pretty girls, the smell of questionable meat pies. Life, brother." Asher couldn't help but smile. "You're an idiot. An idiot who's about to get us free pastries. Watch and learn." Finn made a beeline for a bakery stall where a pretty blonde girl was arranging bread. Asher followed, shaking his head. He watched Finn work his charm, making the girl laugh, somehow walking away with 2 pastries and what looked like a promise to meet later. "Here." Finn tossed one to Asher. "Told you I had skills." "Skills at getting slapped, maybe." "Hey, I haven't been slapped in at least 3 weeks. That's a record." They wandered through the market, eating pastries that were better than anything Asher usually ate. Finn kept up a constant stream of commentary, pointing out girls, mocking overpriced goods, making Asher laugh despite himself. For a little while, Asher almost forgot about princesses and magic and the danger hanging over his head. Then he saw her. She was standing near a fabric merchant's stall, wearing a simple grey dress and a hood despite the warm day. But Asher would have recognized her anywhere. Sera. His heart jumped into his throat. She was with Lyra, who was examining cloth like they were just 2 normal girls shopping. But Asher could see the tension in Sera's shoulders, the way her eyes kept scanning the crowd, looking for someone. "Looking for him? You all right?" Finn asked. "You just went pale." Asher tore his eyes away. "I'm fine, just thought I saw someone." "Who?" "Nobody, doesn't matter." But Finn was already following his gaze. "Wait, are you staring at those girls? The ones by the fabric stall?" "No. You totally are. Which one? The short one or the tall one with the hood?" "Neither, drop it." Finn's grin turned wicked. "You like the tall one. I can see it on your face. You've got that look." "What look?" "That I'm completely screwed and I don't even care look." Finn elbowed him. "Come on, let's go talk to them." "Absolutely not." "Why not?" "What's the worst that could happen?" Asher could think of about 100 answers to that question, most of them ending with executions. But before he could stop him, Finn was already walking toward the stall. Asher cursed and followed, his pulse racing. Sera noticed them approaching. Her eyes met Asher's, and something flickered in them. Surprise, then recognition, then what might have been relief. Lyra saw them too and immediately stepped closer to Sera, protective. "Good afternoon, ladies," Finn said with his most charming smile. "Lovely day for shopping, isn't it?" Lyra looked him up and down with zero interest. "Lovely. I'm Finn. This is my friend Asher. We couldn't help but notice 2 beautiful women browsing alone and thought we should remedy that tragic situation." "Did you now?" Lyra's tone could have frozen water. Finn, to his credit, didn't back down. "I did. See, my friend here has been in a terrible mood for days, and I thought perhaps the company of lovely ladies might improve his spirits." Sera's lips twitched. She was trying not to smile. Asher wanted to disappear into the ground. "Your friend looks perfectly capable of improving his own spirits," Lyra said. "You'd think so, wouldn't you? But he's useless, completely hopeless." It's actually sad. Finn turned to Sera. You, however, look like a woman of mercy. Surely you could spare a few moments to... We're busy, Lyra interrupted. Busy looking at cloth you clearly have no intention of buying. We might buy some. You've been standing here for 5 minutes and haven't asked a single price. You're either the world's most indecisive shoppers, or you're waiting for someone. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Finn had hit closer to the truth than he realized. Sera finally spoke, her voice soft but clear. Perhaps we could walk with you, just for a few minutes. My friend has been cooped up inside for too long. She could use the air. Lyra shot her a look that said, "What are you doing?" but didn't argue. Finn's grin widened. Excellent. See, Ash? All it takes is a little charm. They started walking through the market, Finn and Lyra in front, Asher and Sera a few steps behind. The crowd provided cover, but Asher's heart was still racing. What are you doing here? He whispered. Shopping, Sera said innocently. You're the princess. You don't shop in common markets. I'm not the princess right now. I'm just Sera, a girl buying fabric with her friend. She glanced at him. What are you doing here? Finn dragged me out, said I'd been acting weird. Have you? Yes, because a certain princess broke into my room in the middle of the night and turned my life upside down. Sera's smile was small but genuine. Sorry about that. No, you're not. No, I'm not. They walked in silence for a moment, navigating around a group of children playing. I've been looking for you, Sera said quietly. I wanted to give you something, but I couldn't figure out how to get it to you without drawing attention. Give me what? She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small object. When she pressed it into his hand, Asher felt warm metal. He looked down. It was a ring, simple, silver, with a tiny stone set in it that seemed to shimmer even in the shade. What is this? A way to reach me, Sera said. It belonged to my mother. Moira gave it to her when she was young. If you hold it and think of me, I'll feel it. I'll know you need to meet. How does it work? Magic. Old magic. The kind that was made before the ban. She closed his fingers around it. Keep it hidden. If anyone asks, say you found it, but don't lose it. It's the only one. Asher slipped it into his pocket. Do you have one too? I don't need one. I can feel you without it. She said it so matter-of-factly, but the words made his chest tighten. The connection between us is strong enough. Ahead of them, Finn was still trying to charm Lyra, who looked like she was considering various ways to murder him. Your friend talks a lot, Sera observed. That's Finn. He means well, but he has no sense of self-preservation. Sounds like someone else I know. Asher looked at her. I have plenty of self-preservation. That's why I'm terrified every second I'm around you. And yet you're still here. And yet I'm still here. They stopped at a stall selling flowers. Sera picked up a white rose and examined it like it was the most fascinating thing she'd ever seen. My father announced new laws yesterday, she said quietly, still looking at the flower. Anyone suspected of having magic can be detained without trial, held indefinitely. Interrogated. Asher's blood went cold. That's insane? Evil? Yes. She set down the rose. He's getting worse, more paranoid. I think he knows something's coming, but he doesn't know what. So he's lashing out at anything that might be a threat. Are you safe? For now, but I don't know for how long. She finally looked at him. I found something. In the palace library, a book about the curse. What did it say? That's the problem. It didn't say anything useful. Most of the pages were torn out. Someone removed them deliberately. But there was a reference to a place called the Hollow. Have you heard of it? Asher shook his head. Neither had I. But I think that's where the answers are. Where the curse started. So what do we do? I need to find out where the Hollow is. And then we need to go there. Are you serious? Leave the city? Do you have a better idea? Before Asher could answer, a commotion erupted nearby. Shouting. The crowd parted suddenly. A group of royal guards pushed through, dragging someone between them. A young woman, maybe 20, screaming and fighting. I didn't do anything. Please, I don't have magic, I swear. The crowd watched in horrified silence as the guards hauled her toward a wagon with iron bars. One of the guards addressed the watching people. This woman was found with forbidden texts. She's been aiding magic users. She'll be tried for treason. No, the woman screamed. I'm a scribe. Those were just old books. Please. They threw her into the wagon and locked the door. The guard's eyes swept the crowd. Let this be a reminder. Anyone harboring magic users or forbidden knowledge will face the same fate. Then they were gone, the wagon rolling away, the woman's cries fading into the distance. The market slowly returned to normal, but the energy had changed. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Sera's face had gone pale. "We need to leave. Now!" Lyra appeared beside them, grabbing Sera's arm. "We need to go, before they start questioning people." Finn looked confused. "What just happened?" "Nothing good," Asher said. "Come on." They moved quickly through the crowd, putting distance between themselves and where the guards had been. At the edge of the market, Sera turned to Asher. "2 nights from now," she said urgently, "the east garden of the palace. There's a section of the wall that's crumbling. You can climb it. Meet me there at midnight. We need to talk properly." "The palace? Are you insane?" "Probably, but it's the only place we won't be overheard." She squeezed his hand once, quickly. "Please, this is important." Asher wanted to argue, wanted to tell her this was too dangerous, too reckless, but the desperation in her eyes stopped him. "All right. 2 nights, midnight." Relief flooded her face. "Thank you." Then she and Lyra were gone, disappearing into the crowd like they'd never been there at all. Finn stared after them. "Okay, what the hell was that?" "What was what?" "Don't play dumb. That girl was into you, like seriously into you. And she's definitely not a common market girl. The way she talked, the way she moved." "Who is she?" "Nobody, just someone I met. Just someone you met who wants to have secret midnight meetings with you at the palace." Finn grabbed his arm. "Ash, what are you involved in?" "Nothing. It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" Asher met his eyes. Finn was an idiot, but he wasn't stupid, and he'd been Asher's friend for years. One of the few real friends he had. But this secret wasn't his to share. "I can't tell you," Asher said quietly. "I'm sorry, but I can't." Finn's expression shifted, hurt, then worry, then resignation. "Fine. Keep your secrets. But Ash, whatever you're doing, be careful. I don't want to watch them drag you into one of those wagons." "I will, I promise." Finn nodded slowly. Then he forced a smile. "Come on, let's get back before Gareth thinks we ran off to join a traveling circus." They walked back through the streets, but the easy atmosphere from before was gone. Asher's hand went to his pocket, feeling the ring Sera had given him. 2 nights. He had 2 nights to prepare for the stupidest, most dangerous thing he'd ever done. Sneaking into the royal palace to meet a princess in secret. If he survived this, it would be a miracle. End of Chapter 5. Chapter 6. The Palace Garden. The 2 nights felt like 2 years. Asher worked during the days, went through the motions, tried to act normal. But his mind was always elsewhere, planning, worrying, second-guessing every decision that had led him to this point. Breaking into the royal palace, he must have lost his mind. On the second night, he waited until Gareth had gone to bed. The old blacksmith's snoring rumbled through the floor, steady and reliable as always. Asher dressed in dark clothes, nothing fancy, just his darkest shirt and trousers. He tied his boots tight and made sure he had the ring Sera had given him. Then he slipped out the window and onto the roof. The city was quieter at night, but not silent. Rathmore never truly slept. There were always people moving in the shadows, drunks stumbling home, guards on patrol, lovers sneaking to secret meetings. Asher kept to the rooftops where he could, dropping down to the streets only when necessary. He'd been to the palace district before, but never this close. The wealthy lived here in houses with actual gardens and gates. The streets were cleaner. The lanterns actually worked, and looming over it all, the palace itself. It sat on a hill at the north end of the city, surrounded by high walls. Torches burned along the battlements. Guards walked regular patrols. Asher crouched behind a fountain across from the east wall and studied it. Sera had said there was a crumbling section. He scanned the wall, looking for any sign of weakness. There, about 30 yards to his left, a section where the stones didn't quite line up. Vines grew thick there, which meant the mortar was probably failing. He waited for a patrol to pass, then moved. The wall was about 15 feet high. Not impossible, but not easy either. Asher grabbed the vines and tested his weight. They held. He started climbing, finding handholds in the gaps between stones. His fingers scraped against rough rock. His arms burned with effort. Halfway up, a vine tore free. Asher's heart stopped as he swung sideways, catching himself with one hand. He hung there for a breath, then found new purchase and kept going. At the top, he paused and looked down. The palace gardens stretched out below him. Even in the moonlight, they were beautiful, perfectly manicured hedges, flower beds arranged in geometric patterns, paths of white stone that seemed to glow, and guards, 2 of them, walking a path about 50 yards away. Asher waited until they turned a corner, then dropped down onto the other side of the wall. He landed in a crouch, his boots hitting soft grass. He froze, listening. Nothing. No shouts, no running footsteps. He'd made it inside. Now he just had to find the East Garden without getting caught, arrested, or killed. Simple. The gardens were a maze. Asher moved carefully, keeping to the shadows, ducking behind hedges whenever he heard voices. He passed a fountain with a statue of some long-dead king. A greenhouse that smelled like exotic flowers. A section where the hedges had been trimmed into the shapes of animals. How the other half lived. Finally, he found what had to be the East Garden. It was smaller than the others, more wild. The hedges here weren't as perfectly trimmed. Flowers grew in clusters that looked almost natural. And sitting on a stone bench beneath a willow tree was Sera. She stood when she saw him, relief flooding her face. "You came," she said. "You doubted me." "A little. This is insane after all." "Yeah, I noticed." Asher crossed to her, glancing around. "Where's Lyra?" "Keeping watch. If anyone comes, she'll signal." Sera gestured to the bench. "Sit. We don't have much time." Asher sat, and she settled beside him. She was wearing a simple dress, dark blue, with her hair loose around her shoulders, no crown, no jewelry, just her. She looked more real than she had in the market, less guarded. "I found more information about the Hollow," Sera said without preamble. "It's a place about 2 days' ride north of here, deep in the Thornwood Forest." "The Thornwood? That forest is supposed to be cursed. People who go in don't come out." "Exactly, which makes it the perfect place to hide something." Sera pulled a folded paper from her pocket. "I found a map. It's old, but it shows a structure in the center of the forest. A temple, maybe. That's where the curse started." Asher took the map and studied it. The detail was faded, but he could make out the basic landmarks. "What makes you think the curse started there?" "Because that's where my mother went, right before she died." The words hung in the air between them. Asher looked up. "Your mother went to the Hollow?" "According to her journal, yes. I found it hidden in her old chambers. Most of the pages were destroyed, but I could piece together enough." Sera's hands twisted in her lap. She was trying to break the curse. She thought if she could find its source, she could stop it, but something went wrong. "And your father? He doesn't know I have the journal, or if he does, he's never mentioned it." She took a shaky breath. "I think he might have killed her, Asher. I think she found something in the Hollow, and when she came back, he couldn't let her live with that knowledge." The pain in her voice made Asher's chest ache. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "Don't be. I never knew her. She's just a ghost to me, a collection of stories and portraits." Sera looked at him. "But if I can finish what she started, if I can break this curse, maybe her death means something." "So we go to the Hollow." "We go to the Hollow. When?" "Soon. I need a few more days to prepare, to gather supplies without drawing attention. And we need a cover story for why we're both leaving the city." Asher leaned back against the bench. "This is really happening. We're actually doing this." "Having second thoughts?" "More like 10th or 11th thoughts." He ran a hand through his hair. "But no, I'm in. I said I'd help you, and I meant it." Sera smiled, and it transformed her face, made her look younger, less burdened. "Thank you," she said. "I know this is asking a lot. You barely know me. You have no reason to trust me or risk your life for this." "I have a reason." "What reason?" Asher met her eyes. "Because for the first time in my life, I don't feel alone. Because when I look at you, I see someone who understands what it's like to hide who you are every second of every day. And because if there's a chance to make this kingdom safe for people like us, I have to take it." Sera stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she leaned forward and kissed him. It was brief, soft, and over before Asher's brain caught up with what was happening. She pulled back, her cheeks flushed. "Sorry," she said quickly. "I shouldn't have." Asher kissed her back. This time it lasted longer. Her hand came up to his cheek, and he felt the warmth in his chest flare so bright it almost hurt. Magic recognizing magic, just like Moira had said. When they broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "Okay," Sera said, her voice shaky. "That was... yeah. We probably shouldn't... probably not." They stared at each other. Then Sera laughed, and it was the most genuine sound Asher had ever heard from her. "We are so screwed," she said, completely. A bird call echoed from somewhere nearby. 3 short whistles. Sera's expression shifted immediately. "That's Lyra. Someone's coming." They both stood. "Go," Sera said. "The wall where you came in. Lyra will make sure the guards are looking the other way." "What about you?" "I'm supposed to be here. I'll say I couldn't sleep and came out for air." She pushed him gently toward the path. "Go, now." Asher hesitated, then leaned in and kissed her once more, quick and hard. "Be safe," he said. "You too." Then he was running. retracing his path through the gardens. Behind him he heard voices, guards greeting the princess, asking if she was all right. Sera's voice, calm and regal, assuring them everything was fine. Asher reached the section of crumbling wall and climbed. His arms protested, but adrenaline pushed him up and over. He dropped to the other side and ran. He didn't stop until he was 3 streets away, chest heaving, heart pounding. He'd done it. He'd broken into the palace, met with the princess, and made it out alive. And he'd kissed her. Twice. Asher leaned against a wall and started laughing. Quiet, slightly hysterical laughter that he had to muffle with his hand. This was insane, all of it. But he couldn't bring himself to regret any of it. He made his way back through the city, climbing up to his attic room just as the first light of dawn touched the horizon. Inside, he collapsed on his mattress, exhausted. The ring Sera had given him was warm against his chest. 2 days, she'd said. They had 2 days to prepare. 2 days until they left for the Hollow. 2 days until everything changed. Asher closed his eyes and let sleep take him, dreaming of dark forests and ancient temples and a girl with fire in her veins. When he woke a few hours later, sunlight was streaming through the window, and Gareth was standing in the doorway. The old blacksmith's arms were crossed, his expression unreadable. "So," Gareth said slowly, "you want to tell me why you came home at dawn smelling like palace gardens, or should I just start guessing?" Asher's stomach dropped. He sat up slowly, his mind racing. "I can explain." "I'm listening." But before Asher could figure out what lie to tell, Gareth held up a hand. "Actually, don't. I don't want to know." He stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. "But I need you to understand something. I've known you had magic for years." The world stopped. "What?" "The cut that healed overnight when you were 14. The time you stopped that fire from spreading with just a touch. The way heat doesn't seem to bother you, no matter how close you get to the forge." Gareth's expression was gentle. "I'm not blind, boy, and I'm not stupid." Asher couldn't breathe. "Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you turn me in?" "Because you're a good kid who never asked for this. Because the law is wrong, and I'm old enough to remember when magic wasn't something to fear." Gareth sat down on the chair. "And because you're the closest thing I've got to a son, I'm not handing you over to be burned." Tears stung Asher's eyes. He blinked them back. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just listen." Gareth leaned forward. "Whatever you're planning, whatever you're involved in, it's dangerous. I can see it all over you, and I'm guessing it has something to do with a girl." Asher's face heated. "Thought so." Gareth almost smiled. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to do whatever fool thing you're planning, and I'm going to cover for you. Tell people you've gone to visit a cousin in the next town over, or some such story." "Gareth, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to. I'm choosing to." He stood. "But you listen to me, Asher. You be careful. You keep your wits about you, and you come back alive. Understand?" Asher stood and faced him. "I understand. Good." Gareth gripped his shoulder hard. "Now get some proper sleep. You look like death." He left, closing the door behind him. Asher stood alone in his room, overwhelmed. Gareth knew, had known for years, and instead of turning him in, he'd protected him, had lied for him, was willing to cover for him even now. Asher sat back down on his mattress, his head in his hands. He'd spent so long thinking he was alone, that he had to hide from everyone, trust no one, but he'd been wrong. Gareth, Sera, even Lyra and Moira in their own ways. He wasn't alone anymore, and that made what came next both easier and harder. Easier because he had people to fight for, harder because now he had people to lose. Asher lay back and stared at the ceiling, exhaustion finally pulling him under. In 2 days, they'd leave for the Hollow. In 2 days, everything would change. He just hoped they were ready for it. End of Chapter 6. Chapter 7. The Departure. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation and paranoia. Asher gathered what little he owned that might be useful. A knife he'd made himself, sharp enough to shave with. A flint for starting fires. A water skin that had seen better days, but still held liquid. Some dried meat and bread that Gareth slipped him without comment. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. He also spent time in the forge, making something special. A small dagger, perfectly balanced, the blade etched with a pattern that looked decorative, but was actually a series of runes he'd found in an old book. He didn't know if they'd do anything, didn't even know if he believed in that kind of magic. But it made him feel better to have it. On the morning of the second day, Finn showed up at the forge. Asher was sharpening the dagger when his friend walked in, looking uncharacteristically serious. "So," Finn said, leaning against the doorframe, "you're leaving?" Asher's hand stilled. What? Don't bother lying. I heard Gareth telling someone you were going to visit family. But you don't have family, which means you're going somewhere you don't want people knowing about. Asher set down the whetstone. Finn, is it because of that girl? The one from the market? There was no point denying it. Finn knew him too well. Yeah, Asher admitted. It's because of her. Finn was quiet for a moment. Then he walked over and sat on the edge of the workbench. Is she worth it? He asked. Whatever trouble you're getting into, is she worth it? Asher thought about Sera, the way she'd looked at him in the garden, the way she'd kissed him like he was something precious instead of something to be feared. Yeah, he said quietly. She's worth it. Finn nodded slowly. All right then, but you need to know something. There are rumors. What kind of rumors? About the princess. People are saying she's been sneaking out of the palace, that she's been seen in the city in disguise. Finn met his eyes, and a few people mentioned seeing her talking to a blacksmith's apprentice in the market. Asher's blood went cold. How many people? Not many, and most think it's just gossip. But if the wrong person hears it, if it gets back to the king... Finn trailed off. Ristabar, just be careful, all right? Whatever you're doing, whoever she is, be careful. I will. Finn stood and clapped him on the shoulder. Good, because when you get back, you're buying me a drink and telling me this whole insane story. Deal. After Finn left, Asher finished packing. He wrapped the dagger carefully and tucked it into his belt. Then he went to find Gareth. The old blacksmith was working on a sword, the kind of commission that paid well. He didn't look up when Asher approached. I'm leaving tonight, Asher said. I know. I don't know how long I'll be gone. I figured. And I don't know if I'll come back. Gareth finally looked up. His eyes were hard, but there was something else underneath. Something that looked like fear. You'll come back, he said firmly, because you're smart and you're strong and you're too damn stubborn to die young. Asher felt his throat tighten. Thank you. For everything. For taking me in. For teaching me. For protecting me. I don't think I ever said it enough, but thank you. Gareth set down his hammer and crossed to him. Then he did something he'd never done before. He hugged Asher. It was brief, awkward, but genuine. You don't owe me thanks, boy, Gareth said gruffly. You earned your place here. You worked hard, stayed out of trouble, became someone worth knowing. He pulled back. But if you want to thank me, you can do it by coming back alive. I'll try. Don't try. Do. Gareth went to a locked chest in the corner of the forge and pulled out a small pouch. He tossed it to Asher, who caught it reflexively. It was heavy. When Asher opened it, he found coins, silver and copper, more money than he'd ever held at once. I can't take this, Asher said. Yes, you can. You've earned it from your work over the years. I've been saving it for you. Gareth crossed his arms. Now take it and get out of here before I change my mind and lock you in your room. Asher tucked the pouch into his pack. I'll pay you back. Damn right you will, with interest. They shared a brief smile, then Asher turned and headed for the door. Asher, Gareth called. He looked back. Whatever you find out there, whatever happens, remember who you are. Not what you can do, but who you are. Don't let the magic define you. Asher nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Then he left, climbing the stairs to his attic room one last time. He had a few hours before he was supposed to meet Sera, time to rest, to prepare mentally for what came next. He lay on his mattress and pulled out the ring she'd given him. In the afternoon light, the stone seemed to pulse with a faint glow. Asher held it and thought of her. Wondered if she could feel it. If she was preparing too, saying her own goodbyes. The ring grew warm in his palm. Then he felt it. A flutter in his chest, like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. She'd felt him. She knew he was thinking of her. The connection between them was real, tangible. It should have scared him. Instead, it gave him courage. Across the city, in the palace, Sera was having a much harder time preparing. She'd packed a bag with supplies, hidden it under her bed. She'd stolen travel clothes from the servants' quarters. She'd memorized the patrol routes and timing. But leaving the palace meant leaving everything she'd ever known. And it meant lying to her father. She was in her chambers when the summons came. The king wanted to see her. Sera's stomach dropped, but she kept her expression neutral as she followed the guard to the throne room. Her father was standing by the window, looking out over the city. He didn't turn when she entered. You asked to see me, father, Sera said. I did. He was quiet for a moment. There have been reports. Troubling reports. Her heart raced. What kind of reports? That you've been seen outside the palace, in the city, without proper escort. She forced herself to stay calm. I occasionally walk in the gardens, Perhaps someone saw me from a distance and was confused. Perhaps he finally turned to face her. Or perhaps you've been sneaking out, risking your safety and your reputation for reasons I can't begin to fathom. Sera met his eyes. I haven't been sneaking out. It was a lie, a blatant, dangerous lie, but her father just studied her, his expression unreadable. I hope that's true, he said, because if I thought you were putting yourself in danger, I would have no choice but to increase security, confine you to your chambers for your own protection. It was a threat, veiled but clear. I understand, Sera said. Good, because I need you safe, Seraphina. You're all I have left of your mother. I won't lose you too. There was something in his voice, pain, maybe, or regret. For a moment, Sera almost felt sorry for him. Then she remembered the people he'd burned, the lives he'd destroyed, the fear he'd spread across the kingdom. Any sympathy died. Was there anything else, Father? No, you're dismissed. Sera curtsied and left, her mind racing. He suspected something. Maybe not the full truth, but enough to be watching her more closely. She had to leave tonight, before he tightened security. Before he discovered what she was planning. She found Lyra in the servants' quarters, folding linens like it was a normal day. We need to talk, Sera said quietly. Lyra glanced around, then followed her to a storage room where they wouldn't be overheard. What happened? Lyra asked. My father suspects something. He threatened to confine me to my chambers. Then we move up the timeline. You leave tonight. That's the plan. But Lyra, I need you to stay here. Lyra's eyes widened. What? No. We talked about this. I'm coming with you. You can't. If we both disappear, it'll be too obvious. But if you stay, you can cover for me. Tell people I'm sick, that I'm not receiving visitors. Buy me time. Sera, I'm not letting you go into the Thornwood alone. I won't be alone. Asher will be with me. A boy you barely know. A boy I trust. Sera grabbed her hands. Please, I need you here. You're the only one who can protect my secret long enough for me to find answers. Lyra looked like she wanted to argue, but finally she sighed. Fine. But if you get yourself killed, I'm going to be furious. Sera smiled. Noted. They spent the next hour going over the plan. Lyra would tell the guards that Sera had a headache and was resting. She'd bring food to her chambers, but eat it herself. She'd make excuses for why the princess couldn't attend dinners or meetings. It would buy Sera maybe 3 days before people started asking real questions. 3 days to get to the Hollow, find answers, and get back. It wasn't much, but it would have to be enough. As the sun set, Sera changed into her travel clothes. Dark trousers, a simple shirt, sturdy boots. She pulled her hair back and tucked it under a cap. In the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Good. She grabbed her pack and turned to Lyra. Thank you, Sera said, for everything. For being my friend when you could have just been a servant. For believing in me. Lyra pulled her into a hug. Come back safe. And bring that blacksmith boy back too. I didn't go through all this trouble just to have you both die in some cursed forest. We'll be careful. You better be. They pulled apart and Sera headed for the door. Then she paused. If I don't come back... Don't, Lyra interrupted. Don't say it. You're coming back. You have to. Sera nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Then she left, moving through the palace corridors one last time. She avoided the main hallways, taking servant passages and back stairs. She passed her mother's old chambers, locked and gathering dust for 17 years. One day she'd come back and find out the truth about what happened there. But not tonight. Tonight she had to leave. She made it to the East Garden without being seen. The same bench where she'd kissed Asher sat empty in the moonlight. Sera climbed the crumbling wall, the same path Asher had taken. At the top, she looked back at the palace. It had been her prison for her entire life, but it had also been her home. Leaving felt like tearing off a part of herself. She turned away and dropped down the other side. The meeting point was an abandoned mill at the edge of the city. Asher was already there, waiting in the shadows. When he saw her, relief flooded his face. I was starting to think you weren't coming, he said. I'm here. You ready for this? Sera looked at him, at this boy who'd agreed to risk everything for her, for a cause he barely understood. No, she admitted, but let's go anyway. Asher smiled and held out his hand. She took it. Together, they walked away from Rathmore, away from everything they'd ever known. The Thornwood Forest loomed in the distance, dark and foreboding. And somewhere in its depths, the Hollow waited, along with answers, danger, and a curse that had haunted the kingdom for nearly 2 decades. Sera squeezed Asher's hand. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. And Chapter 7, Chapter 8. Into the wild, they walked through the night, putting as much distance between themselves and Rathmore as possible. The road north was well traveled during the day, but at night it was empty. Just two figures moving through the darkness, their footsteps the only sound besides the wind. Asher kept glancing at Sera, still not quite believing she was here. The princess had left her palace, her life of luxury, to walk dusty roads with him toward a cursed forest. It was insane. "You're staring," Sera said without looking at him. "Sorry." "Don't be. I'm just not used to it." She adjusted the pack on her shoulders. "In the palace, people look at me all the time, but they don't really see me. They see the crown, the title, the image. You actually see me. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "I haven't decided yet." They walked in comfortable silence for a while. The city lights faded behind them, and the landscape opened up. Fields stretched on either side of the road, crops rustling in the night breeze. "How far do you think we can get before sunrise?" Asher asked. "Maybe 10 miles if we keep this pace. Then we'll need to find somewhere to rest during the day." "Why during the day?" "Because that's when people will be looking for me. When my father realizes I'm gone, he'll send riders. They'll check the roads, question travelers." Sera pulled her cap lower. "But if we travel at night and hide during the day, we might stay ahead of them." Asher hadn't thought about being chased, about the king's guards hunting them down. "How long before he notices you're missing?" "Lyra will cover for me as long as she can. Maybe 2 days. 3, if we're lucky." Sera's voice was tight. "After that, all of Aldrich's forces will be looking for me. And when they find us, if they find us, my father will lock me in the highest tower and throw away the key. And you?" She looked at him. "He'll have you executed for kidnapping a princess." "I didn't kidnap you." Try explaining that to a man who burns people for having magic. "Good point." They kept walking, and the night deepened around them. The moon was bright enough to see by, casting everything in silver and shadow. Asher found himself hyper-aware of Sera beside him. The way she moved, graceful even when she was clearly exhausted. The way her hand occasionally brushed against his. The warmth that pulsed between them, magic calling to magic. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. When did you first know about your magic?" Sera was quiet for a moment, her eyes on the road ahead. "I was 7, she finally said. "There was a fire in the palace kitchens. One of the servants got trapped. I heard her screaming and ran toward the flames without thinking. My governess tried to stop me, but I pushed past her." "What happened?" "I walked into the fire. It should have burned me alive, but it didn't. The flames parted around me like water. I found the servant and pulled her out. Everyone was amazed, calling it a miracle." Sera's expression darkened. "Everyone except my father. He looked at me like I was a monster. He pulled me aside later and told me to never do anything like that again. To never show what I could do. He knew you had magic even then. He suspected. I think he'd been watching for signs since I was born. Since my mother died." She kicked a pebble on the road. "He spent my whole life trying to suppress it, teaching me to hide it, to fear it. And I did fear it. For years, I was terrified of myself. What changed? I got tired of being afraid, tired of pretending to be something I'm not." She looked at him. "What about you? When did you know?" Asher thought back. "I'm not sure. I've had the warmth in my chest for as long as I can remember. But the first time I knew it was magic, I was maybe 12. A kid in the market tried to steal from me. We fought, and he pulled a knife, cut me across the arm deep. Should have needed a healer. But it healed itself. By the next morning, it was just a scar, and even that faded after a few days." Asher touched his arm, where the cut had been. "I knew then that I was different. Dangerous." "You're not dangerous." "I could be. We both could be. That's what scares me." Sera stopped walking. She turned to face him, and in the moonlight, her eyes seemed to glow. "Listen to me," she said. "Magic isn't good or evil. It's just power. What matters is what we do with it. And you, Asher, you use it to heal, to help. That's not dangerous. That's beautiful." "Your father doesn't think so." "My father is wrong about a lot of things." They stood there, close enough that Asher could feel the heat radiating from her. Not the normal warmth of another person, but something more. Something that made his own magic respond, rising to meet hers. He wanted to kiss her again, wanted it so badly it hurt. But before he could move, a sound broke the moment. Hoofbeats. They both froze. "Off the road," Sera hissed. "Now!" They scrambled into the field beside the road, dropping low among the crops. Asher's heart hammered against his ribs. The hoofbeats grew louder, 2 horses moving fast. Through the stalks of wheat, Asher saw them pass. 2 riders in dark cloaks, not royal guards, but something else. Mercenaries, maybe. Or bandits. The riders didn't slow, didn't look their way. They just thundered past and disappeared down the road. Asher and Sera waited in silence for several minutes. Finally, Sera stood. "We need to be more careful," she said. "The roads aren't safe. Should we go cross-country?" "No, we'd get lost, and it would take twice as long. But we need to stay alert. No more distractions." Asher nodded, even though part of him wanted to argue that she was a very good distraction. They continued walking, but the easy atmosphere from before was gone. Now they were tense, watching the shadows, jumping at every sound. Dawn was starting to break when they finally left the main road and found shelter. It was an old barn, half collapsed but still standing. The owner had probably abandoned it years ago. Now it was just rotting wood and hay. But it would keep them hidden. They slipped inside, and Asher immediately collapsed against a wall. His legs were screaming, he'd been walking for hours, and exhaustion hit him all at once. Sera looked just as tired, but she moved around the barn, checking for other entrances, making sure they were alone. "We're safe," she finally announced. "For now." She sat down beside Asher, close enough that their shoulders touched. "How are you doing?" she asked. "Tired. Sora, questioning all my life choices." She smiled. "Same. Do you think we'll make it to the hollow?" "I don't know, but we have to try." Asher pulled out the food Gareth had given him. Bread, cheese, some dried meat. He split it with Sera, and they ate in silence. The food was simple, probably the plainest meal Sera had eaten in her life. But she didn't complain, just ate like it was a feast. "Can I ask you something?" Asher said. "Why did you really come with me? You could have sent soldiers, hired mercenaries, done this 100 safer ways. Why risk yourself?" Sera was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "Because I'm tired of watching other people fight my battles. Tired of sitting in that palace while people die for something they can't control." She looked at him. "And because when I'm with you, I feel more real than I've felt in my entire life. Like I'm not just playing a role, like I'm actually living." Asher's chest tightened. "I feel that too." Yeah. My whole life, I've been hiding, pretending to be normal when I knew I was anything but. With you, I don't have to pretend." Sera leaned her head against his shoulder. "We're a mess, you know that." "I know. 2 people with secrets that could get us killed, running toward a cursed forest because of some vague hope that we'll find answers. Sounds about right. And yet I don't want to be anywhere else." Asher put his arm around her, and she curled into him. The warmth in his chest flared, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt right, like 2 pieces of a puzzle finally clicking together. "Get some sleep," he said. "I'll keep watch." "You need sleep too." "I'll sleep after. Someone needs to make sure those riders don't come back." Sera was too tired to argue. Within minutes, her breathing evened out, and she was asleep against his shoulder. Asher sat there, holding her, watching the light filter through the cracks in the barn walls. This was real. He was really doing this, running away with a princess to break a curse and probably get himself killed in the process. And the strangest part was that he didn't regret it. For the first time in his life, he was choosing his own path. Not hiding, not running, but moving toward something. Toward answers, toward freedom, toward her. Hours passed, the sun climbed higher, and the barn grew warm. Asher's eyes grew heavy, but he forced them open. He must have dozed off at some point, because when he opened his eyes again, the light had shifted. It was afternoon, and Sera was awake, watching him. "You fell asleep," she said. "Sorry, I was supposed to keep watch." "It's fine. I've been awake for an hour. Nothing's happened." She was still leaning against him, and she didn't move away. Neither did he. "We should start moving again soon," Sera said. "We need to make good time tonight. The Thornwood is still a day and a half away." "Have you ever been to the Thornwood?" "No. My father forbade it, said it was too dangerous." Maybe he was right. Maybe, but we're going anyway. Asher looked at her, at this girl who'd given up everything to chase a truth that might not even exist. "You're kind of insane, you know that?" Sera smiled. "Takes one to know one." They spent the rest of the afternoon preparing. Asher checked their supplies while Sera studied the map, memorizing the route. As the sun started to set, they packed up and prepared to leave. But before they stepped out of the barn, Sera grabbed Asher's hand. "Whatever happens," she said, "whatever we find in the hollow, I want you to know that this, right now, is the freest I've ever felt. So thank you for coming with me, for believing in this." Asher squeezed her hand. "I'm exactly where I want to be." They kissed, brief but intense, the magic between them flaring so bright that for a moment the barn seemed to glow. When they pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. "We should go," Sera said, her voice shaky. "Yeah," but neither of them moved. Then Sera laughed, and the sound was pure joy. "We are so screwed," she said, "completely. But at least we're screwed together." They left the barn as the sun touched the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The road north stretched before them, leading toward the Thornwood, toward the hollow, toward answers and danger, and a future that was completely uncertain. But they walked it together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. Behind them, the city of Rathmore faded into the distance, and ahead of them, the forest waited. Dark, ancient, cursed, but they didn't stop. They kept walking into the gathering darkness, two souls bound by magic and hope, and something that felt dangerously like love. The real journey was just beginning. End of Chapter 8. Chapter 9. The Edge of Darkness. The second night of travel was harder than the first. Asher's feet were blistered, his shoulders ached from the pack, and every muscle in his body screamed for rest. But they kept moving, driven by the knowledge that every hour counted. Sera looked just as exhausted, but she didn't complain. She just kept putting one foot in front of the other, her jaw set with determination. The landscape had changed. The flat farmland had given way to rolling hills, covered in wild grass and scattered trees. The air smelled different too, wilder, like something ancient lived just beyond sight. "We're getting close," Sera said, checking the map by moonlight. The Thornwood should be visible by morning. Asher could feel it, not just proximity but something else, a pull in his chest that had nothing to do with Sera. The warmth that usually sat quiet beneath his skin was more active now, pulsing like a second heartbeat. "Do you feel that?" he asked. Sera nodded. "Like something's calling to us. I felt it for the last hour." "Is that normal?" "I don't know. I've never been this close to a place of old magic before." They crested a hill, and Asher stopped. In the distance, maybe 5 miles away, a dark mass rose against the horizon. Even in the moonlight he could see it. A forest so dense and dark, it looked like a wall of shadow. The Thornwood. "Hell," Asher breathed. Sera stood beside him, staring at the forest. "My mother walked into that, alone. She was braver than me. Or more desperate." Sera's hand found his. "Come on, we should cover more ground before we rest." They descended the hill and continued north. The pull in Asher's chest grew stronger with every step, and the warmth beneath his skin began to itch. He scratched at his arm absently. "You feel it too?" Sera asked. "Yeah, it's like my magic knows we're getting close to something. Mine's doing the same thing. I keep wanting to just let it out, let it burn." She flexed her fingers. "But I can't. Not yet." They walked in silence for a while, both fighting the strange urge building inside them. The road began to deteriorate. What had been a well-maintained path became rutted and overgrown. Grass pushed through cracks in the stone. Trees grew closer to the edges, their branches reaching overhead like grasping fingers. "People don't come this way much," Asher observed. "Would you, if you knew that forest was waiting at the end?" Fair point. An hour before dawn, they heard it. Hoofbeats, multiple horses moving fast. But these weren't coming from ahead. They were coming from behind. Sera's face went pale. "No, it's too soon. Lyra was supposed to cover for me for at least another day." "Maybe it's not your father's guards. Who else would be riding this hard, this far north, in the middle of the night?" Asher looked around frantically. They were on open road with hills on either side, no cover, nowhere to hide. "We run," he said. "We can't outrun horses." "Then we fight. Against trained soldiers, we'll be killed." The hoofbeats were getting louder, closer. Asher's mind raced. Then he looked at the forest looming ahead. "The Thornwood," he said. "We go in. They won't follow us there." Sera stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "That forest is cursed. We were supposed to approach it during the day, when we were rested and prepared. We don't have a choice." The first hints of torchlight appeared on the road behind them. Sera cursed. Then she grabbed his hand. Run! They ran. Asher's pack bounced against his back. His lungs burned. The torchlight grew brighter behind them. Someone shouted, "There, I see them!" More voices, orders being called out. Asher didn't dare look back. He just ran, his hand locked around Sera's, pulling her forward. The forest was getting closer. A quarter mile, less. "Stop in the name of the king," a voice boomed behind them. "Keep running," Sera gasped. Asher heard the twang of a bowstring. "Get down!" He tackled Sera, and they both hit the ground hard. An arrow whistled overhead, so close Asher felt the wind of its passage. They scrambled up and kept running. The tree line was right there, 50 yards, 40. Another arrow. This one struck the ground inches from Asher's foot. 20 yards. 10. They plunged into the forest, and everything changed. The temperature dropped immediately. The moonlight that had illuminated the road vanished, swallowed by a canopy so thick it might as well have been a roof. Darkness pressed in from all sides. Asher could barely see Sera beside him, and she was close enough to touch. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit stopped. Voices called out, but they were distant now. Hesitant. Should we follow them in, Captain? Are you insane? That's the Thornwood. We'd be dead before we made it 50 feet. But the princess can die in there for all I care. I'm not walking into a cursed forest for anyone. We camp here. If they come out, we take them. If they don't, the forest will do our job for us. Sera grabbed Asher's arm, her fingers digging in tight. They stood frozen in the darkness, barely breathing, waiting. Minutes passed. Then they heard the sounds of horses being tethered, orders being given to set up camp. The guards weren't leaving. They were waiting. We're trapped, Sera whispered. Asher's eyes were starting to adjust to the darkness. Not much, but enough to make out shapes. Trees, massive and ancient, their trunks wider than Asher was tall, undergrowth so thick it looked impenetrable. And something else, a faint glow deeper in the forest, blue-green, like foxfire. Do you see that? He asked. Sera followed his gaze. What is it? I don't know, but it's the only light we've got. Or it's a trap. Things in cursed forests tend to lure people to their deaths. You have a better plan? Sera was quiet. Then she sighed. No. Let's go toward the creepy magical light. What could possibly go wrong? They moved deeper into the forest, following the glow. The Thornwood was unlike any forest Asher had ever seen. The trees were wrong somehow, too tall, too twisted, their branches moving, even though there was no wind. The undergrowth grabbed at their clothes like it was alive. And it was quiet. Too quiet. No birds, no insects, no rustling of small animals, just silence and darkness and that distant glow. The warmth in Asher's chest was burning now, so hot it was almost painful. Beside him, Sera's breathing had gone ragged. My magic, she gasped. It's like it wants to explode out of me. Mine too. We need to be careful. Careful? Asher, I can barely hold it in. As if to prove her point, small flames began to dance across her fingertips. She shook her hands, trying to extinguish them, but they just grew brighter. No, she muttered. Not now. Asher grabbed her hands. The moment he touched her, the flames vanished, but the warmth in his own chest flared so bright he gasped. Their magic was feeding off each other, amplifying. We can't touch, Sera said, pulling away. It makes it worse. Then how are we supposed to... A sound cut him off. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the darkness ahead. They both froze. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Then a figure stepped into view, illuminated by that strange blue-green glow. It was an old man, tall and thin, with a long beard and robes that looked like they'd been woven from shadows. His eyes caught the light and reflected it back, like an animal's. Well, the old man said, his voice like dry leaves. Visitors. How long has it been? 20 years? 30? Asher stepped in front of Sera. Who are you? I could ask you the same question, boy, but I already know. Those reflective eyes fixed on Sera. The princess. The cursed child. You look just like your mother. Sera's breath caught. You knew my mother? Knew her? I'm the reason she came here. The old man smiled, and it wasn't a comforting expression. I'm the one who told her about the curse, about the hollow, about the price that must be paid. What price? Sera demanded. The same price you'll pay, if you're foolish enough to continue. But that's a conversation for later. He gestured toward the glow. Come, dawn is breaking, and the forest is most dangerous in the daylight. We need to reach shelter before the trees wake fully. The trees wake? Asher asked. Oh yes, everything in the Thornwood is alive, boy. And most of it is hungry. The old man turned and began walking toward the glow. Asher looked at Sera. She looked back at him. This is a terrible idea, Asher said. Absolutely terrible, Sera agreed. We're doing it anyway. We don't have much choice. They followed the old man deeper into the forest. As they walked, Asher started to notice more details. The trees weren't just twisted, they were carved. Symbols and runes covered the bark, so old they'd become part of the wood itself. And the glow wasn't coming from one source, it was everywhere. Mushrooms growing on the trees, plants covering the forest floor, all of them emitting that eerie blue-green light. Don't touch anything, the old man called back. The glow caps are poisonous. Even your magic won't save you if you're foolish enough to eat one." "Who are you?" Sera called out. "I have many names. Most people call me the Warden. I keep watch over the hollow, ensure that what sleeps there continues to sleep." "What sleeps there?" "Questions, questions. You're just like your mother." She couldn't stop asking questions either. The Warden glanced back. Look where that got her. Sera's hands clenched into fists. "What happened to my mother?" She found what she was looking for, and it killed her. The words hung in the air like a curse. "You're lying," Sera said, but her voice shook. "Am I? Then why did she return to the palace dying? Why did she spend her last hours screaming about shadows and fire and a debt that couldn't be paid?" "How do you know that?" "Because I was there. I tried to stop her from going into the hollow, warned her of the price, but she was desperate, said her daughter's life depended on it." The Warden stopped and turned to face them fully. "You were the cursed child, Princess, born with magic in a kingdom where magic is death. Your mother went into the hollow to try to save you, to break the curse before it consumed you." Sera looked like she'd been struck. "No, that's not true. The curse is on the kingdom, not on me." "The curse is you, child, don't you understand? The blight on the crops, the storms, the sickness, it all started the day you were born. Your magic is so powerful, so uncontrolled, that it poisons everything around you." "That's a lie," Asher said fiercely. "Sera's magic doesn't poison anything." "Doesn't it? Why do you think King Uldric has been hunting magic users so desperately? He knows the truth. He knows his own daughter is the source of the curse, and he's been trying to purge the kingdom of magic in hopes that it will weaken her power before it destroys everything." Sera's face had gone white. "I don't believe you. Believe what you want, but the hollow knows. It's been calling to you your entire life, waiting for you to come and fulfill your mother's debt." The Warden stepped closer. "She tried to make a bargain, tried to trade herself for you, but the hollow doesn't work that way. It took her sacrifice and gave nothing in return, and now it wants you too." "Why are you telling us this?" Asher demanded. "If you're trying to scare us away, it won't work." "I'm not trying to scare you away. I'm trying to prepare you." The Warden looked at them both with something that might have been pity. "Because you're going to the hollow whether I help you or not. I can see it in your eyes. The same determination your mother had, the same foolish hope." "Then help us," Sera said. "Tell us how to break the curse without dying. There might be a way. Your mother was alone when she went in, but you, Princess, you have something she didn't." "What?" The Warden looked at Asher. "A counterbalance, light to your darkness. His magic is healing, creation. Yours is destruction, fire. Together you might be strong enough to face what waits in the hollow and survive." The warmth in Asher's chest pulsed in response to the words. "But make no mistake," the Warden continued, "the hollow will test you. It will show you your worst fears, your deepest shames. It will try to break you. And if you're not strong enough, if your bond isn't true, it will consume you both." Sera took Asher's hand. The moment they touched, the warmth flared, but this time Asher didn't pull away. He held on tight. "We're strong enough," Sera said. The Warden studied them for a long moment, then he nodded. "Perhaps you are. We'll see." He turned and continued walking. "Come, we're almost to my dwelling. You'll rest there today. Tonight I'll take you to the hollow." "Tonight?" Asher asked. "The hollow can only be entered at night. During the day, it's sealed, protected." The Warden's voice drifted back through the darkness. "But at night, when the moon is full and the barrier is weakest, that's when you can go in." "And the moon," Sera asked, "is full tonight, which means this is your only chance. If you miss it, you'll have to wait another month. And I doubt you have that long, with the king's guards camped at the edge of the forest." They walked in silence after that, following the old man through the cursed forest. Asher's mind was reeling. Sera was the curse. Her magic was destroying the kingdom. He looked at her, and even in the dim light, he could see the pain in her eyes. She believed it. Or at least, part of her did. "Hey," he said quietly. "Whatever he said, whatever the truth is, it doesn't change anything. We're in this together." Sera nodded, but she didn't speak. She just held his hand tighter. Finally, they reached a clearing. In the center stood a small cottage, ancient and covered in moss, but solid. Light glowed in the windows. "Welcome to my home," the Warden said. "Such as it is. Rest now. You'll need your strength for tonight." He opened the door and gestured them inside. Asher and Sera exchanged glances. This could be a trap. The old man could be leading them to their deaths, but they didn't have a choice. They stepped inside. The cottage was bigger than it looked from outside. One large room with a fireplace, a table, shelves lined with books and strange objects. It smelled like herbs and old paper. "Sit," the warden said. "I'll make tea, then we'll talk about how to survive the hollow." As Asher and Sera sat at the table, the full weight of what they were about to do settled over them. Tonight they would enter the hollow. Tonight they would face the curse that had haunted the kingdom for 17 years. Tonight they would either break it or die trying. And Asher couldn't shake the feeling that nothing would ever be the same again. End of Chapter 9, Chapter 10. Preparation. The warden's tea tasted like dirt and flowers and something Asher couldn't identify. But it was warm, and after 2 nights of walking, warmth was enough. Sera sat across from him at the wooden table, her hands wrapped around her cup. She hadn't said much since the warden's revelation, just stared into the tea like it held answers. The old man moved around the cottage, gathering items from various shelves. Bottles, bundles of herbs, objects that looked like they'd been pulled from nightmares. "You're taking this remarkably well," the warden said, setting a leather satchel on the table. "What part?" Asher asked. "The part where we're trapped in a cursed forest, or the part where you told Sera she's been slowly killing her kingdom since birth?" "Both, I suppose." "We're not taking it well. We just don't have the luxury of falling apart." The warden smiled, and it was less unsettling this time. Almost human. "Good. Panic will get you killed in the hollow faster than anything else." He began pulling items from the satchel. "Now listen carefully. I can't go in with you. The hollow won't allow it. I tried once, decades ago. It nearly destroyed me." He pulled up his sleeve, revealing an arm covered in scars. But these weren't normal scars. They moved, shifting and writhing like they were alive. Sera finally looked up. What did that? The shadows. They're the hollow's first defense. They feed on fear and doubt, take the shape of whatever will hurt you most. The warden covered his arm again. "I saw things in there I'll never forget. My daughter who died when she was 6. My wife, my failures given form." "How did you escape?" Asher asked. "Barely, and only because I ran. I didn't try to push deeper like you will." He fixed them with a serious look. "You two are going to the heart of it, where the curse was born, where the real power sleeps." "What's at the heart?" Sera asked, her voice quiet. "A well, an ancient source of magic from before the kingdom existed, before humans came to this land at all." The warden pulled out a small bottle filled with silver liquid. "Your ancestors built a temple around it, tried to control it, use it. But magic that old doesn't like being controlled. So they cursed it, broke it. Worse, they made a deal with it." The warden set the bottle on the table. "Magic requires balance. Take from it, and you must give something back. Your ancestors took power from the well for generations, made their kingdoms strong, their crops plentiful, their armies unbeatable. But they never paid the price. Until my mother," Sera said, "until your mother, the debt had been building for centuries. Someone had to pay it, or the magic would turn poisonous, corrupt everything it touched." The warden looked at her. "You were born at the exact moment the debt came due. The magic latched onto you, marked you as payment." Sera's hands were shaking. "So I am the curse. No, you're the collateral. The magic is using you as a channel, bleeding through you into the world. That's why your power is so strong and so unstable. You're not just a magic user, princess. You're a conduit for centuries of unpaid debt." Asher reached across the table and took her hand. "So how do we fix it? You pay the debt, or break the contract entirely." The warden pushed the bottle toward them. "This is moon water, blessed by every full moon for the last 50 years. It will protect you from the shadows, but only for a short time. Use it wisely." "What else do we need to know?" Sera asked. The warden pulled out more items. A compass that spun without direction, a rope that glowed faintly, a knife with a blade that looked like crystallized darkness. "The compass will guide you to the heart of the hollow. Don't trust your eyes or your ears in there. Everything lies. But the compass shows true." He handed it to Asher. "The rope is unbreakable. If you get separated, and you will, use it to find each other again." He gave it to Sera. "And the knife is for the final choice. When you reach the well, you'll understand." Asher looked at the blade. Something about it made his skin crawl. "What kind of choice?" "That's not for me to say. The hollow will show you when the time comes." The warden stood and walked to the fireplace. "You have until sunset to rest and prepare. I suggest you use the time wisely." "What are you going to do?" Sera asked. "Keep watch. The forest doesn't like visitors, and the king's guards are still camped at the border. If they get brave and decide to come in after you, I'll know." He left through a back door, leaving Asher and Sera alone. They sat in silence for a long moment, then Sera spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "What if he's right? What if I've been hurting people my whole life without knowing it? Then it's not your fault. You can't be blamed for something you didn't know you were doing. Can't I? All those people my father burned, all those families destroyed. What if the curse made the magic stronger in others too? What if I'm the reason they were discovered? Asher moved around the table and knelt beside her chair. Listen to me. You are not responsible for your father's choices. He's the one who made magic illegal. He's the one who chose fear and violence over understanding. That's on him, not you. Tears spilled down Sera's cheeks. But if I hadn't been born, then I never would have met you, and my life would be a hell of a lot emptier. She looked at him, and the pain in her eyes made his chest ache. How can you say that? You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're brave and kind and willing to risk everything to save people you've never met. I know that when I'm with you, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. He cupped her face in his hands. And I know that whatever we face in that hollow, we face it together, no matter what. Sera kissed him, hard and desperate. Her magic flared, and so did his, and for a moment the cottage was filled with light. When they pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. I'm scared, Sera admitted. Me too. But we've got this. Do we? We have to. Because the alternative is unacceptable. Sera managed a small smile. When did you become so confident? About 30 seconds ago. I'm faking it really well though, right? She laughed, and the sound was like sunlight breaking through clouds. They spent the rest of the day preparing. Asher checked their supplies, made sure the rope and compass were secure. Sera studied the map one more time, memorizing every detail, even though the warden said they couldn't trust it in the hollow. They ate a simple meal of bread and cheese that the warden had left for them. Neither had much appetite, but they forced it down anyway. As the sun began to set, the warden returned. It's time, he said. Asher and Sera stood. They'd changed into darker clothes, better for moving through shadows. Everything non-essential had been left behind, just the compass, the rope, the knife, and each other. Remember, the warden said, the shadows will try to separate you. Don't let them. Stay close, stay focused, and don't trust anything you see or hear unless it comes from each other. And when we reach the well, Sera asked, trust your instincts. The magic will know what needs to be done. It's been waiting for this moment for 17 years. That was not as reassuring as Asher would have liked. They followed the warden out of the cottage and deeper into the forest. The thornwood at night was even more unsettling than during the day. The glowing plants provided light, but it was sickly and wrong. Shadows moved at the edge of vision. The trees seemed to lean in, watching. Asher kept his hand on the hilt of the dark knife. Sera walked beside him, her fingers occasionally sparking with small flames she couldn't quite control. They walked for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes. Then the warden stopped. Ahead of them, the forest opened into a clearing. But it wasn't natural. The trees formed a perfect circle, their branches intertwining overhead to create a dome. And in the center of the clearing was a hole in the ground. Not a cave, not a tunnel, just darkness. Pure, absolute darkness that seemed to swallow the light around it. The hollow. That's it? Asher asked. That's the entrance. The hollow itself extends far underground, miles possibly. No one's ever mapped the entire thing. The warden turned to them. Last chance to turn back. Sera looked at Asher. We've come this far. Might as well see it through. The warden reached into his robes and pulled out 2 small stones. They glowed with a soft white light. Take these. They'll light your way for a while. But once you reach the heart, the light will fail. The well doesn't allow it. Asher took 1 stone. It was warm in his palm, and the light it gave off pushed back the darkness. Sera took the other. One more thing, the warden said. Whatever happens in there, whatever you see or hear, remember why you came. Remember what you're fighting for. The hollow will try to make you forget. Will try to convince you that nothing matters, but you can't let it. We won't, Sera said. The warden nodded, then to Asher's surprise he bowed. Your mother would be proud, he said to Sera. She died trying to save you. Don't let that sacrifice be for nothing. Sera's jaw tightened. I won't. They approached the edge of the darkness. Up close, it was even more wrong. The hole was maybe 10 feet across, and Asher could see the beginning of a stone staircase spiraling down into it, but after the first few steps, there was just black. Together, Sera asked, holding out her hand. Asher took it. Together. They stepped onto the first stair. The temperature dropped instantly. The air grew thick and hard to breathe. Another step. The light from their stones began to dim. Another step. The sounds of the forest above faded away. Asher looked back. The warden was still visible, standing at the edge of the clearing. He raised one hand in farewell. Then they descended another step, and he was gone. Just darkness and the sound of their breathing. "Keep going," Sera whispered. "Don't stop." They went down. Step after step, the spiral staircase taking them deeper. Asher counted at first. 50 steps, 100, 200. Then he lost count. Time became meaningless. They could have been walking for minutes or hours. The stone's light grew dimmer. The walls began to press in. And then Asher heard it. A voice, familiar and impossible. "Asher, why did you leave me?" He froze. That was Gareth's voice. "Don't listen," Sera said. "It's not real." But the voice came again, clearer this time. "I gave you everything, a home, a life, and you abandoned me, left me to face the king's guards alone. They're going to kill me, Asher. Because of you." "It's not real," Asher repeated, but his heart was pounding. "They're burning the forge, everything I built, everything we had, and it's your fault." "Asher, look at me," Sera said, gripping his hand tighter. "That's not Gareth, it's the shadows. They're trying to break you." Asher forced himself to keep moving, to ignore the voice, but then he heard another one. "Finn, some friend you are, Ash. You didn't even say goodbye, didn't tell me the truth. Just ran off with some girl and left me behind. I thought we were brothers." "We are," Asher said to the darkness. "Then why am I dead? The guards came looking for you. I tried to help, tried to lie for you, and they killed me for it." "He's not dead," Sera said firmly. "It's lying, don't listen." But more voices joined in. The girl he'd healed in the market, other faces from Rathmore, all accusing him, all blaming him. The darkness pressed closer, and then Sera gasped. "No," she whispered. "No, that's not possible." "What do you see?" Asher asked. "My mother. She's right there. She's reaching for me." Asher couldn't see anything, just darkness, but Sera was pulling away, moving towards something he couldn't perceive. "Sera, stop. It's not real. She is calling me. She wants to tell me something. I have to—" Asher grabbed her, pulling her back. "It's the shadows. They're showing you what you want to see. But she's right there." "She's not. I'm right here. I'm real. Focus on me." Sera's eyes were distant, glazed. She was seeing something that wasn't there. Asher did the only thing he could think of. He kissed her. The moment their lips met, warmth flooded through him. Their magic connected, pushing back the cold and the dark. Sera gasped and pulled back, her eyes clearing. "Asher, I almost—" "I know, but you didn't. We're okay." She nodded shakily. "The rope. We should use the rope." "Good idea." Asher pulled out the glowing rope and tied one end around his waist, the other around Sera's. "Don't let go of me," she said. "Not a chance." They continued down, tied together, the rope ensuring they couldn't be separated. The voices kept coming. Accusations, pleas, threats, but they pushed through them. Finally, after what felt like forever, the staircase ended. They stepped onto level ground. The stone beneath their feet began to glow faintly, providing just enough light to see by. They were in a tunnel. The walls were carved with the same symbols Asher had seen on the trees above, but these were older, deeper. They seemed to pulse with a life of their own. "The compass," Sera said. Asher pulled it out. The needle spun wildly for a moment, then locked onto a direction, straight ahead. "This way." They walked through the tunnel, their footsteps echoing. The walls grew narrower, then wider. Sometimes the ceiling was so high they couldn't see it. Other times they had to duck. And all around them, the shadows whispered. But they kept going, until the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. And at the center of that chamber, glowing with a light that was both beautiful and terrible, was the well. It was massive. A circle of carved stone, maybe 30 feet across, filled with liquid that shimmered like starlight. The source of all magic in the kingdom. The heart of the curse. Asher and Sera stood at the edge of the chamber, staring at it. "We made it," Sera breathed. "Yeah, now what?" As if in answer, the liquid in the well began to rise. It poured over the edge, forming a shape, a figure made of pure magic, neither solid nor liquid, constantly shifting. And when it spoke, its voice was everywhere and nowhere at once. "The debt comes due. The heir has returned. Let the reckoning begin." The figure raised one hand, and the chamber filled with light so bright, Asher had to shield his eyes. When he could see again, the figure had changed. It looked like a woman now. Familiar features, dark hair, eyes like Sera's. "No," Sera whispered. "Mom?" The figure smiled, sad and knowing. "Hello, daughter. I've been waiting for you." End of Chapter 10. Chapter 11. The Truth. Beneath Sera couldn't move. couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but stare at the figure that wore her mother's face. Queen Eliza, the woman she'd never known, the ghost that had haunted her entire life. "You're not real," Sera managed. "You're just another shadow. Another trick." The figure tilted its head, and the movement was so achingly familiar, even though Sera had no memory of it. "Am I? Or am I the only real thing you've encountered in this place?" The voice was soft, gentle. "I am what remains of your mother, her echo, preserved in the magic she gave herself to." "That doesn't make sense, doesn't it?" The figure moved closer, gliding across the stone floor without actually walking. "When your mother came here 17 years ago, she made a bargain. She offered herself to pay the debt. Her life, her magic, her very soul. But the well is not cruel. It preserved a piece of her, kept her consciousness alive in the magic itself." Asher stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Sera. "If you're really her mother, prove it. Tell us something only she would know." The figure's eyes, luminous and otherworldly, fixed on him. "Protective. Good, she needs that." The figure turned back to Sera. "When you were 6 months old, you laughed for the first time. It was at a butterfly that landed on your nose during a garden walk. Your father wanted to have it removed. Said it was undignified, but I told him that anything that brought you joy was sacred." Sera's breath caught. She'd read that in her mother's journal, one of the few pages that hadn't been destroyed. "The journal," Sera whispered. "You know about the journal. I wrote it. Left pieces of myself scattered throughout the palace, hoping that one day you'd find them, that you'd understand." "Understand what? That you abandoned me, that you came here and died and left me alone with him?" Pain flickered across the figure's face. "I didn't want to leave you. I wanted to save you." "By dying?" "By trying to break the curse before it consumed you completely." The figure gestured to the well behind her. "This magic, this ancient power, it's not inherently evil, but it demands balance. For 300 years, your ancestors took from it. Power to build kingdoms, win wars, heal the sick, grow crops. They took and never gave anything back. So the debt grew," Asher said, "exponentially, until the magic itself became corrupt, poisoned by the imbalance. It needed payment, and it chose the firstborn child of the royal line as collateral." "Me," Sera said, "you. From the moment you were conceived, the magic marked you, used you as a channel to bleed its corruption into the world." The figure's expression was anguished. "I felt it happening, felt the curse taking root in you. Your father felt it too. That's why he banned magic the day after you were born. He thought if he could purge the kingdom of all magic users, it would weaken the curse's hold on you." "But it didn't work," Sera said. "No, because you can't fight magic by destroying it. You have to balance it. Give as much as you take." The figure moved to the edge of the well. "I came here to make that balance, to give my life in exchange for yours, to pay the debt so you could live free." "But you failed," Asher said quietly. "Yes, because one life, even a royal life, wasn't enough. The debt was too great. 300 years of taking requires 300 years of giving, or a sacrifice so profound, so powerful, that it resets the balance entirely." Sera's hands clenched into fists. "What kind of sacrifice?" The figure was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at the dark knife hanging from Asher's belt. "The knife," she said. "The warden gave it to you, didn't he?" Asher's hand went to the blade instinctively. "Yes. He said we'd understand what it was for when we got here." "It's a choice," the figure said. "The same choice I faced. The same choice every person who's come here seeking to break the curse has faced." "What choice?" Sera demanded. The figure's eyes met hers, and in them Sera saw infinite sadness. "One of you can stay, become part of the magic, part of the well. Your power, your life force, feeding into the balance for the rest of time. It would be enough to reset the debt, to break the curse, to free the kingdom." The words hit like a physical blow. Sera felt Asher go rigid beside her. "No," he said, "there has to be another way." "There isn't. I searched for years, consulted every text, every scholar, every magical artifact I could find. This is the only way." The figure looked at Sera. "When I came here, I tried to make that sacrifice. I was ready to stay, to become part of the well, but the magic rejected me." "Why?" Sera asked. "Because I came alone. The curse requires balance, remember? Destruction and creation, death and life, light and dark." The figure gestured between them. "You two. Fire and healing. Your perfect opposites, perfect complements. Together, your magic is balanced, but the well demands that balance be maintained, which means if one of you stays, the other must leave. One becomes the anchor, holding the magic steady. The other becomes the tether, connected to the anchor, but free to live in the world above. Asher was shaking his head. That's insane. You're saying one of us has to stay down here forever while the other goes back. Not forever, until the debt is truly paid. 100 years, perhaps, maybe more. That's the same as forever, Sera said, her voice hollow. I know, that's why I failed. I couldn't condemn anyone to that fate. I tried to force it, to give myself anyway. But the magic wouldn't accept an incomplete sacrifice. So it took what it could from me and left me here. A ghost in the machine, watching and waiting. Sera looked at Asher. His face was pale, his jaw set. We're not doing this, he said. We're finding another way. There is no other way, the figure said gently. Then we leave. We go back up, find a different solution. I don't care how long it takes. Asher, the figure said, and there was steel in her voice now. Every day, the curse continues. People die, crops fail and families starve, storms destroy villages, sickness spreads. Every day, Seraphina remains connected to this corrupted magic. She suffers. Can you feel it? The pain she's in. Asher looked at Sera, really looked at her, and she knew he could see it. The strain, the constant burning in her chest that she'd learned to ignore. The way her magic fought against her every second of every day. She'd been in pain for so long, she'd forgotten what it felt like to not hurt. Sera, Asher said softly, I'm fine. You're not. God, how did I not see it before? Because I'm good at hiding it. The figure moved closer. If you do nothing, if you walk away, the curse will eventually consume her. Maybe in a year, maybe in 10. But it will happen. And when it does, the explosion of corrupted magic will destroy everything within 100 miles, maybe more. You're lying, Asher said desperately. I'm not. And you know I'm not. The figure's eyes were kind but unyielding. This is the choice. Make the sacrifice and save the kingdom. Or condemn it to destruction. Sera felt something break inside her. This was what her mother had faced, this impossible choice, and Sera knew what she had to do. I'll stay, she said. No, Asher said immediately. It has to be me. I'm the one carrying the curse. I'm the heir. It makes sense that I'd be the one to... Absolutely not. We'll find another way. There is no other way. You heard her. I don't care. Asher grabbed her shoulders. I am not leaving you here. I don't give a damn about the curse or the kingdom or any of it. I'm not losing you. Tears spilled down Sera's cheeks. You have to. Don't you see? This is what I was born for. This is why I exist, to fix what my ancestors broke. That's not fair. You didn't ask for this. You don't deserve this. Neither do all the people suffering because of me. It's not because of you. It's because of a system that's been broken for centuries. You're just the person stuck holding the bag. And now I have a chance to fix it, to actually do something that matters. Asher was crying now too, tears streaming down his face. Please, he said, please don't ask me to leave you here. Sera cupped his face in her hands. I'm not asking, I'm telling you. You're going to take that knife, you're going to leave this place, and you're going to live. You're going to go back to Gareth and Finn and everyone who cares about you. You're going to have a life. I don't want a life without you in it. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. Asher pulled away from her and turned to the figure. What if we both stay? The figure's eyes widened slightly. That's not how it works. Why not? You said it needs balance. We're balanced, so we both become part of the well. We anchor it together. If you both stay, there's no tether, no connection to the world above. The magic would be sealed down here completely. It would save the kingdom from the curse, yes, but it would also cut it off from all magic forever. Every magic user would lose their power. Every enchantment would fail. Everything magical would die. So, Asher said, let it die. Magic's done nothing but cause pain anyway. Asher, no, Sera said. Magic isn't evil. You can't destroy it. Watch me. He pulled out the dark knife. The blade seemed to drink in the light around it, growing darker and more solid. If we both stay, both anchor the well, we break the curse and end magic, Asher said. That's a fair trade. The figure looked between them. You would condemn yourself to an eternity down here, trapped, just to stay with her? Without hesitation. And you? The figure looked at Sera. Would you let him make that sacrifice? Sera's mind was racing. If they both stayed, they'd be together, but they'd also be prisoners, and the world would lose magic entirely. Was that the right choice? There has to be a third option, Sera said. Something we're not seeing. There isn't, the figure said. Then we make one. Sera closed her eyes and reached deep inside herself. to the place where her magic lived, the burning, painful, constant presence that had been with her since birth, the curse. But also, she realized, power, raw, immense, untapped power that she'd spent her whole life suppressing. What if she didn't suppress it? What if she used it? "Sera, what are you doing?" Asher asked. "Something stupid or brilliant, I haven't decided yet." She opened her eyes and they were glowing. Flames danced across her skin, but they didn't burn. "If the debt needs to be paid," Sera said, "if it needs magic given back to create balance, then I'll give it magic. Not my life, not my soul, just my power." "That won't be enough," the figure said. "It will be if Asher gives his too." Asher stared at her. "What?" "We both pour our magic into the well, all of it, everything we have. We give until there's nothing left." Sera grabbed his hands. "It won't kill us. We'll just be normal, powerless, but alive, and together." "The debt requires a permanent anchor," the figure said, "a continuous flow of magic. If you give everything once and then stop, the imbalance will just grow again. Not if we give enough to reset the debt to zero, to bring it back to the way it was before my ancestors started taking. That would require more power than any two people could possibly generate." "Maybe, or maybe not." Sera looked at Asher. "Our magic is balanced, destruction and creation. When we're together, when we're connected, it amplifies. You felt it." "I've felt it," Asher admitted. "So we combine our power. We pour everything we are into the well. And we trust that our connection, our balance, will make it enough." The figure was silent, studying them. "It's never been tried," she finally said. "Then we'll be the first. If it fails, you'll both die. Your magic will burn you out from the inside. And if it works, you'll break the curse, reset the debt, and save the kingdom." The figure smiled sadly. "And you'll lose your magic forever. You'll be ordinary." Sera looked at Asher. "I can live with ordinary, can you?" Asher's hand tightened around hers. "As long as I'm ordinary with you." They turned to face the well. The liquid inside was churning now, responding to the magic building between them. "How do we do this?" Asher asked. The figure pointed to the edge of the well. "Stand there, join hands, and let go. Don't hold anything back. Give it all." Sera and Asher moved to the edge. The well was deep, the liquid inside swirling with colors that shouldn't exist. They joined hands, facing each other. "If this kills us," Asher said, "I want you to know that meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me." "Same," Sera said, "even if it was only for a few days." "Ready?" "Not even a little bit." "Good, me neither." They closed their eyes and reached for their magic. Sera felt hers respond immediately. The fire, the destruction, the burning power that had been tearing her apart for 17 years. She let it out, all of it. Flames erupted from her body, pouring into Asher, into the well, into everything. Asher's magic rose to meet hers. Warmth, healing, creation, the gentle power that had saved lives and mended wounds. He gave it freely, their magic combined, swirling together, destruction and creation dancing in perfect harmony. And then they poured it into the well. The reaction was immediate. Light exploded from the well, so bright it was blinding. The chamber shook. Stone cracked and fell from the ceiling. Sera felt her magic being pulled from her, ripped out by the roots. It hurt. God, it hurt worse than anything she'd ever felt. But she didn't let go of Asher's hands. Beside her, she heard him scream, felt him shaking. But he didn't let go either. They poured more, everything they had. The figure of Sera's mother was crying, her form beginning to break apart. "It's working," she said, her voice barely audible over the roar of magic. "You're doing it. You're actually doing it." Sera felt herself weakening. Her vision was going dark. Her legs wouldn't hold her. But still she gave. Still they both gave. Until there was nothing left. Sera collapsed, and Asher collapsed with her. They hit the stone floor, still holding hands. The light faded. The chamber went quiet. And in the silence, Sera heard something she'd never heard before. Nothing. No burning in her chest. No constant pressure. No pain. The magic was gone. She opened her eyes and saw Asher beside her, also staring up at the ceiling. "Are we dead?" he asked. "I don't think so. Dead probably hurts less." "Good point." They lay there for a moment, too exhausted to move. Then Sera realized something. The figure of her mother was gone, but standing at the edge of the well was a real woman. Solid. Whole. Young, maybe 30, with dark hair and eyes like Sera's. Queen Elisa. Actually, truly, impossibly alive. "Mom?" Sera whispered. The woman smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing Sera had ever seen. "Hello, baby," she said. "I've been waiting so long to hold you." End of Chapter 11. Chapter 12. Awakening. Sera couldn't move. Every muscle in her body felt like it had been shredded and put back together wrong. But she forced herself to sit up, forced herself to look at the woman standing by the well. Her mother, alive, real. Queen Elisa crossed the chamber in 3 strides and dropped to her knees, pulling Sera into her arms. The hug was fierce, desperate, and Sera felt something inside her break open. She'd spent 17 years wondering what this would feel like, imagining it in 1,000 different ways. None of her imaginings came close to the reality. Her mother smelled like rain and flowers and something indefinably warm. Her arms were strong and gentle at the same time, and when she pulled back to look at Sera's face, her eyes were filled with tears. "You're so beautiful," Elisa whispered. "So much stronger than I ever was." "How?" Sera managed. "How are you alive? I thought you were just an echo, a piece of consciousness." "I was. For 17 years, I was trapped in the well, not quite alive, not quite dead, just existing." Elisa cupped Sera's face. "But when you and Asher poured your magic in, when you reset the debt, it freed me, gave me back my body, my life, everything I'd given up." Asher had managed to sit up too, watching the reunion with a dazed expression. "So the sacrifice wasn't permanent?" he asked. "You just needed someone to reset the balance?" "I didn't know. I thought I was gone forever. But magic is strange. It takes, but it also gives." Elisa looked at him. "You must be the boy, the one she risked everything for." "I'm Asher, and technically she's the one I risked everything for." Elisa smiled. "Either way, you saved her, saved all of us. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We still have to get out of here and somehow explain all of this to a king who wants me dead." One problem at a time, Elisa stood and offered her hands to both of them, pulling them to their feet. Sera swayed and her mother caught her. "Easy. You just poured out your entire magical essence. You're going to be weak for a while." "How long is a while?" Sera asked. "Days, maybe weeks. Your body needs to relearn how to function without magic coursing through it." Sera looked down at her hands. They looked the same, but they felt different. Empty, like something essential had been carved out of her. "Is it gone forever?" she asked quietly. Elisa's expression was gentle but sad. "Yes. You can't get back what you've given. The magic you poured into the well is gone. You're human now, completely, utterly human." Asher took Sera's hand. "Is that a bad thing?" Sera thought about it, about the years of pain, of hiding, of fear, about the constant burning in her chest that had finally, blessedly gone silent. "No," she said, "I don't think it is." Elisa looked at them both, and something fierce crossed her face. "You two did something I couldn't, something no one in the history of this kingdom has ever managed. You broke a curse that's been building for 300 years. You saved countless lives. And you found a third option when everyone else saw only 2. She gripped their shoulders. "You should be proud." "I'll be proud when we're out of this place and not being hunted," Asher said. "Fair enough. Let's move." Elisa led them back toward the tunnel they'd entered through. But as they walked, Sera noticed something. The tunnel was different. The symbols on the walls were no longer glowing. The oppressive darkness had lifted. Even the air felt cleaner, easier to breathe. "The hollow's changing," Elisa said. "Without the curse poisoning it, it's reverting to what it was meant to be. Just an old temple, a place of power, but not evil." "Will the shadows still attack us?" Asher asked. "No. They were manifestations of the curse. They'll fade now." As if to prove her point, they passed through areas where Sera remembered seeing writhing darkness before. Now there was just empty space. The climb back up the spiral staircase was brutal. Sera's legs were shaking by the time they were halfway up, and Asher didn't look much better. But Elisa seemed fine, more than fine. She moved like someone half her age, practically bouncing up the stairs. "Is it just me, or does your mum have way too much energy right now?" Asher muttered. "I heard that," Elisa called back. "And yes, I do. I've been trapped as a ghost for 17 years. You'd be energetic too if you suddenly got your body back." They kept climbing. Step after step, the darkness gradually giving way to the faint glow of the Thornwood's strange plants. Finally, they reached the top. The entrance to the hollow was just ahead, and through it, Sera could see the forest. Dawn was breaking. Light filtered through the twisted trees, and the glowing plants were starting to dim. They stepped out into the clearing, and Sera took her first real breath of forest air. It was over. They'd actually done it. Well done. They all spun around. The warden stood at the edge of the clearing, leaning on his staff. When he saw Elisa, his eyes widened. Elisa, is that really you? Hello, old friend, she said with a smile. The warden crossed the clearing faster than a man his age should be able to move and pulled Elisa into a hug. I thought you were lost. Thought you died down there. I did in a way, but these two brought me back. Elisa pulled away and gestured to Sera and Asher. They did what I couldn't. They broke the curse. The warden looked at them with something like awe. You reset the debt. We did, Sera said. It's over. The curse is broken. The warden's eyes were bright with tears. I never thought I'd see this day. Never thought it was possible. Neither did we, Asher admitted. What happens now? The warden asked. Elisa's expression grew serious. Now we deal with Aldrich. He has guards camped at the edge of the forest, and they're not going to just let us walk past. How many guards? Asher asked. 4 when they arrived, but he may have sent more by now. And they're under orders to kill me on sight and drag Sera back to the palace, Asher said. Probably. Great. Any ideas? Elisa thought for a moment. Then she smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made Sera think her mother might be a little bit dangerous. We walk right up to them, Elisa said. That's a terrible plan, Asher said. Actually, it's perfect. They're expecting 2 fugitives, scared, desperate, easy to capture. Elisa stood straighter, and suddenly she looked every inch a queen. What they're not expecting is the dead queen returned to life. That should buy us enough surprise to negotiate. Or get us all killed, Asher muttered. Trust me, I've dealt with Aldrich's guards before. They're loyal to the crown, not to him personally. If I show up and claim my rightful place, they'll hesitate, and hesitation is all we need. The warden nodded. I'll come with you, as a witness. My word still carries weight in some circles. Then it's settled, Elisa said. We march to the edge of the forest and face whatever comes. They set out, moving through the thornwood as the sun rose higher. Sera noticed more changes. The trees didn't seem as twisted now. The undergrowth wasn't grabbing at them. Even the air felt different, cleaner. The whole forest is healing, the warden said, noticing her observation. The curse poisoned everything. Now that it's gone, nature is reclaiming what's hers. After about an hour of walking, they heard voices ahead. The camp. Elisa held up a hand, signaling them to stop. Let me go first, she said quietly. Sera, you and Asher stay behind me. Warden, you're with me. What do we do if this goes wrong? Sera asked. Run. Head east, follow the river, get as far from Rathmore as you can. I'm not leaving you, Sera said. Elisa's expression softened. I just got you back. I'm not losing you again. So please, if things go badly, promise me you'll run. Sera wanted to argue, but the look in her mother's eyes stopped her. I promise, she said, even though she had no intention of keeping it. They moved forward, and the camp came into view. 4 guards, just like the warden had said. They'd set up tents and a small fire. Horses were tethered nearby. One of the guards saw them and immediately stood, hand going to his sword. Captain, movement in the forest. The other 3 guards scrambled up, weapons drawn. The captain, a grizzled man with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. Come out slowly, he called. Hands where we can see them. Eliza walked into the clearing, the warden beside her. Sera and Asher followed a few steps behind. The captain's eyes widened when he saw Elisa. What kind of trick is this? He demanded. No trick, Captain Reeves, Elisa said, and her voice carried the authority of someone who'd spent years ruling. Though I imagine my appearance is something of a shock. You're dead. Queen Elisa died 17 years ago. I was trapped, not dead. And now I've returned. The other guards were murmuring to each other, uncertain. Captain Reeves looked at Sera. And you, Princess Seraphina, your father has the entire kingdom searching for you. I'm sure he does, Sera said. You're to return to the palace immediately, and the boy is to be arrested for kidnapping and treason. I didn't kidnap anyone, Asher said. She came willingly. That's not how the king sees it. Elisa stepped forward, putting herself between the guards and Sera. Captain, I know you. You served under me before I disappeared. You swore an oath to protect the crown. I did, and I've upheld that oath by serving King Aldrich. Then serve it by listening to me now. Elisa's voice was steel. The curse that has plagued this kingdom for 17 years is broken. My daughter and this boy did what no one else could. They saved the realm. And you want to arrest them for it? I have my orders. Your orders came from a man who doesn't know the truth, who doesn't know that his wife is alive, that his daughter is a hero, that everything he's feared and fought against was wrong. Captain Reeves hesitated. Sera could see the conflict in his eyes. Loyalty to his orders versus loyalty to the woman who'd once been his queen. "How do I know you're really Queen Eliza?" he asked. "You could be an imposter. A magic user playing tricks." Eliza thought for a moment. Then she said, "Your daughter. Her name is Mara. She was 7 when I disappeared. You brought her to the palace once for the spring festival. She picked flowers from my garden, and instead of scolding her, I helped her make a crown of them." The captain's face went pale. "No one knows that. I never told anyone." "I know it because I was there. Because I am who I say I am." Elisa's voice gentled. "Captain, I'm not asking you to betray your oath. I'm asking you to uphold it. Come with us to the palace. Let me speak to Aldrich. Let him see the truth with his own eyes." The captain looked at his men. They looked back at him, equally uncertain. Finally, he lowered his sword. "If this is a trick, if you're lying to me, I'll see all of you hanged," he said. "If I'm lying, you can hang me yourself," Elisa replied. "Fine, we'll escort you to the palace, but the boy stays bound and you all ride under guard." "That's acceptable." Asher leaned close to Sera and whispered, "Is it just me, or did your mum just completely take over this situation? She's been a queen for longer than we've been alive. This is what she does. It's kind of terrifying." "Yeah." The guards produced rope and bound Asher's hands, not painfully tight, but enough to make it clear he was a prisoner. Then they brought out the horses. There were only 4, which meant they'd have to double up. Sera rode with her mother. Being this close to her, feeling her warmth, her realness, still felt surreal. "Are you all right?" Elisa asked quietly as they started riding. "I don't know. Everything's happened so fast. A week ago, I was just the princess trapped in a palace. Now I've broken a curse, lost my magic, and found my mother. I don't know how to process any of it." "One thing at a time. Right now, focus on the immediate problem. We need to get to your father and make him understand what's happened." "He won't believe you. He'll think it's a trick." "Maybe. But I have to try. He's not a good man, Sera. But he used to be different. Before I left, before the curse consumed everything. Maybe, if I can reach the man he used to be, we can fix this without more bloodshed. And if you can't?" Elisa's jaw set. "Then we do what we have to do to protect you and Asher. I didn't come back from the dead just to watch my daughter be imprisoned by a tyrant, even if that tyrant is her father." They rode in silence after that. The forest gradually gave way to open country. Fields stretched out on either side of the road, and Sera noticed something. The crops looked healthier, greener, like something had lifted from them. "The curse," she breathed. "It's really gone. You can see it." Elisa nodded. "It'll take time for the kingdom to fully heal. But yes, the corruption is fading." Asher, riding with one of the guards, called out to her. "Sera, look." He pointed to the sky. Storm clouds that had been gathering on the horizon were breaking apart. Sunlight streamed through, painting everything in gold. For 17 years, the kingdom had lived under a shadow, under threat of failing crops, unnatural storms, and the constant fear of magic. And now, for the first time, that shadow was lifting. People working in the fields stopped and stared at the sky. Some pointed, some fell to their knees. They could feel it too, the change, the hope. As they rode toward Rathmore, Sera felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Not the burning of magic, not the pain of the curse, but something warm and light and terrifying in its own way. Hope. Maybe they really had changed things. Maybe the kingdom could heal. Maybe she and Asher could actually have a future if they survived the next few hours. The city walls came into view as the sun reached its peak. Rathmore, home. But as they approached, Sera saw something that made her blood run cold. The gates were closed. Guards lined the walls, dozens of them, and hanging from the battlements were banners, black banners, the symbol of a kingdom in mourning. "What the hell?" Asher said. Captain Reeves spurred his horse forward and called up to the gate guards. "Open the gates. We have the princess." A guard leaned over the wall. "Captain, thank the gods. The king has been beside himself. He declared 3 days of mourning when the princess went missing. Said she'd been murdered by magic users." "She's not dead, you fool. She's right here." The guard's eyes widened when he saw Sera. Then he saw Elisa, and he nearly fell off the wall. "Is that—" "No, it can't be. Open the damn gates," Captain Reeves shouted. The gates began to swing open, and they rode into the city. People lined the streets, and when they saw Sera, they began to cheer. The princess lives." But when they saw Elisa, the cheers turned to shocked whispers. "The queen, gods above, it's the queen. She's alive. A miracle." They rode through the city toward the palace, and the crowd grew with every street. Sera had never seen anything like it. People crying, celebrating, reaching out to touch the horses as they passed. And at the palace gates, a figure stood waiting. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a crown and an expression of absolute fury. King Aldric, Sera's father. He stared at them as they approached, his face going through a dozen emotions in as many seconds. Shock, disbelief, rage, and underneath it all, something that might have been fear. When they were close enough, Elisa dismounted. She stood before the king, her head held high, every inch the queen she'd been. "Hello, Aldric," she said. "We need to talk." End of chapter 12. Chapter 13. The Reckoning. 4. The palace courtyard had gone deathly silent. King Aldric stared at Elisa like she was a ghost, which Sera supposed she had been until a few hours ago. "This is impossible," Aldric said, his voice low and dangerous. "You're dead. I watched you die." "You watched me leave," Elisa corrected. "There's a difference." "No, you were sick. The healers said there was no hope. You died in your chambers and I buried you in the royal crypts. You buried an empty coffin. I left for the Hollow before the sickness could take me. I had to try to break the curse, even if it meant sacrificing myself." Aldric descended the palace steps slowly, like he was approaching a wild animal. Up close, Sera could see how much he'd aged. The man she remembered from her childhood had been strong, commanding. This man looked worn down, hollowed out by years of paranoia and fear. He reached out tentatively, his hand shaking, and touched Elisa's face. She didn't pull away. "You're real," he breathed. "How is this possible? Our daughter, and the boy." Elisa gestured to Sera and Asher. "They went into the Hollow and did what I couldn't. They broke the curse, reset the magical debt, and in doing so, they freed me." Aldric's hand dropped. His eyes moved to Sera, and the softness vanished, replaced by cold fury. "You left the palace, disobeyed me, put yourself in danger." "I saved the kingdom," Sera said, keeping her voice steady even though her heart was pounding. "The curse is broken, father. It's over." "The curse?" Aldric's laugh was bitter. "You speak of it like it's some external thing. But you are the curse, Seraphina. You've been poisoning this realm since the day you were born." "That's not true," Elisa said sharply. "She was never the curse. She was the conduit. There's a difference." "A difference? I've spent 17 years watching my kingdom decay. Crops failing, people dying, storms destroying villages. And at the center of it all, my daughter. My cursed, magical daughter." Aldric's voice was rising. "Do you know what it's like watching your own child destroy everything you've built? Do you know what it's like being that child?" Sera shot back. "Growing up knowing your father looked at you like you were a monster. Hiding what you are every second of every day because you knew he'd kill you if he found out the truth. I would never have, wouldn't you? You burned people for having magic, hundreds of them. What makes me different?" "Because you're my daughter." "Exactly. I'm your daughter, and you made me feel like I was poison, like I was something that needed to be hidden and suppressed and feared." The courtyard was absolutely silent. Guards, servants, everyone was watching. Aldric's face had gone red. "I did what I had to do to protect the kingdom. You did what you had to do to protect yourself," Elisa said coldly. "From the guilt of knowing your own policies, your own ancestors' greed created the curse in the first place. It was easier to blame magic users, to hunt them down and destroy them, than to face the truth. And what truth is that? That you were afraid. Of magic, of the curse, of your own daughter." Elisa stepped closer. "I loved you, Aldric. When we married, when Sera was born, I thought we could face anything together. But the moment the curse manifested, the moment you realized our daughter had magic, you turned into someone I didn't recognize. I was trying to save her. By making her hate herself? By creating a kingdom where she couldn't exist? By keeping her alive? If people had known the princess had magic, they would have demanded her execution. I protected her by enforcing the ban." "You protected yourself," Sera said quietly. "If people knew I had magic, they'd know the curse was connected to the royal family. They'd question your authority, maybe even your right to rule. So you made magic illegal and hunted everyone like me to keep your secret safe." Aldric's jaw clenched. For a moment, Sera thought he might strike her. Instead, he turned to the guards. "Arrest them, all of them. The queen for abandoning her duties, the princess for treason, and the boy for kidnapping and corrupting the heir." Captain Reeves stepped forward, but he didn't draw his weapon. "Your Majesty, with respect, I don't think that's wise. I don't care what you think is wise. I gave you an order. An order that contradicts the evidence before us." Reeves gestured to the sky. "The storms are breaking. The crops are recovering. People in the streets are celebrating. Whatever these three did, it worked. The curse is broken. Or it's a trick. More magic. More lies. Father, please, Sera said. I know this is hard. I know you're scared and confused, but we're telling you the truth. The curse is broken. The kingdom is healing, and we can finally stop living in fear. Aldrich looked at her, and for just a moment she saw something in his eyes. Pain. Regret. Maybe even love. Then it was gone, replaced by cold calculation. If the curse is truly broken, then you no longer have magic. It wasn't a question. It was a test. Sera met his eyes. No, I gave it all to break the curse. I'm human now, completely normal. Prove it. How? Aldrich gestured to one of the guards. Captain, your knife. Reeves hesitated, then handed over a small dagger. Aldrich took it and held it out to Sera. If you have no magic, then you can't heal. Cut your palm. If it heals instantly, I'll know you're lying. If it doesn't, I'll know you're telling the truth. That's insane, Asher said. You're asking her to hurt herself to prove something to you. I'm asking her to demonstrate that the curse is truly broken, that she's no longer a threat. Elisa looked like she wanted to protest, but Sera held up a hand. It's fine, I'll do it. She took the dagger. The blade was sharp, well maintained. She pressed it to her palm and drew it across. Blood welled up immediately. The cut was shallow, but it hurt. She held out her hand, showing the wound. Everyone waited. Seconds passed, then a minute. The cut didn't heal. Blood dripped onto the courtyard stones. Sera felt a strange mix of relief and loss. Relief that she'd proven her point. Loss because this was real. Her magic was truly gone. Aldrich stared at her hand. Then he looked at Asher. And you? Same. No magic. We gave it all. Then the curse is truly broken. Aldrich's voice was flat, emotionless. And you're no longer useful as a conduit or a threat. He turned and started walking back toward the palace. Father, wait, Sera called. What happens now? Aldrich paused, but didn't turn around. Now? Now we return to normal. You will resume your duties as princess. The boy will be sent away, and we will never speak of this again. Sent away? Asher said. I just saved your kingdom, and you're kicking me out. You're a commoner who corrupted my daughter and led her into danger. Be grateful I'm not having you executed. He didn't corrupt me, Sera said, her voice rising. He helped me. He risked his life for me, for this kingdom. And you want to punish him for it? I want him gone. Away from you, away from the palace. That's not punishment, that's mercy. Elisa moved to stand beside Sera. You can't do this, Aldrich. I'm the king. I can do whatever I want. No, you can't. Elisa's voice was steel. Because I'm alive, which means your claim to the throne is questionable. The courtyard went silent again. Aldrich turned slowly. What did you say? You heard me. You've been ruling as king for 17 years under the assumption that I was dead. But I'm not. I'm alive, which means technically I'm still queen, and you're still just the prince consort. Aldrich's face went pale. That's absurd. You abandoned your throne, left the kingdom. I left to save our daughter, to break a curse that was destroying everything we'd built. And I succeeded, with her help. Elisa stepped forward. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to acknowledge that the curse is broken. You're going to pardon Seraphina and Asher for any supposed crimes. And you're going to revoke the ban on magic. Never. Magic is too dangerous. Magic is a tool, like a sword or a throne. It can be used for good or evil. Banning it doesn't make it go away. It just makes people afraid. Elisa's voice softened slightly. I know you're scared, Aldrich. I know the curse changed you. But it's over now. We have a chance to rebuild, to create a kingdom where magic users don't have to hide. Where our daughter doesn't have to pretend to be something she's not. She doesn't have magic anymore. There's nothing to pretend. But there are others like her, like Asher, people who were born with power they didn't ask for. Are you going to keep hunting them, keep burning them? Or are you going to be the king I married, the man who believed in justice and mercy? Aldrich looked at Elisa, then at Sera, then at the crowd that had gathered, watching and listening to every word. Sera could see the calculation in his eyes. He was weighing his options, his power versus the truth, his pride versus the good of the kingdom. Finally he spoke. I need time to think, to process all of this. How much time? Elisa asked. A day, maybe 2. It's too much. You were dead, now you're alive. The curse is broken. Everything I've built my reign on is falling apart. For the first time, he sounded vulnerable, human. Sera felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. He was a terrible father and a cruel king. But he was also a man who'd spent 17 years living in fear, making impossible choices. That didn't excuse what he'd done, but maybe it explained it. "We can give you time," Sera said, "but we need assurances. Asher stays, as a guest, not a prisoner, and no one gets arrested or executed while you're making your decision." Aldrich looked at her for a long moment, then he nodded. "Agreed. The boy stays. No one is arrested. You have my word." "Your word hasn't meant much lately," Asher muttered. "Asher," Sera warned. "What? It's true." Aldrich's eyes narrowed. "You have a mouth on you, boy." "I've been told that. Usually right before someone tries to kill me. That can still be arranged." "Father," Sera said sharply. Aldrich sighed. "Fine, everyone inside. We'll discuss this in private, not in front of half the city." He turned and walked into the palace. Elisa looked at Sera. "That went better than expected." "He threatened to execute Asher. How is that better than expected?" "He didn't actually try to execute him. With your father, that counts as restraint." They followed Aldrich inside, Captain Reeves and 2 other guards trailing behind. The palace felt different to Sera. She'd left it less than a week ago, but it felt like a lifetime. She'd been a different person then. Scared, hiding, trapped. Now she was free. Magicless, but free. They were led to a private study. Aldrich sat behind a massive desk, looking every inch the king. Elisa took a seat across from him, and Sera stood beside her. Asher was finally untied and took a position near the door, clearly ready to run if necessary. "So," Aldrich said, "explain it to me, all of it. What happened in the Hollow?" Sera told him. About the journey, the Thornwood, meeting the Warden, about descending into the Hollow and facing the shadows, about finding the well and learning the truth about the curse, about her mother's sacrifice and how she and Asher had found a third option. Aldrich listened without interrupting. His face remained neutral, but his hands clenched and unclenched on the desk. When Sera finished, he was quiet for a long time. "So the curse was created by our ancestors' greed," he finally said, "by taking magic without giving anything back." "Yes." "And it latched onto Seraphina because she was born at the moment the debt came due." "Yes." "And you broke it by giving back all your magic, resetting the balance." "Yes." Aldrich looked at Elisa. "And you were trapped down there for 17 years, watching, waiting." "Yes." "Why didn't you send word? Why didn't you tell me you were still alive, even if only in spirit?" "I couldn't. The well kept me trapped. I could see out into the world sometimes, feel things, but I couldn't communicate. I was a prisoner." Elisa's voice was soft. "But I watched Sera grow up. Watched you turn into someone I didn't recognize. And I couldn't do anything to stop it. I thought you were dead. I mourned you, for years." "I know. And I'm sorry. But I had to try to save her. You understand that, don't you? As a parent." Aldrich's hands stilled. He looked at Sera, really looked at her, for the first time since she'd returned. "I was so afraid," he said quietly. "When you were born with magic, when I realized you were connected to the curse, I was terrified. Not for the kingdom, for you. I knew what would happen if people found out. They'd demand your death. They'd call you a monster. So you called everyone else with magic monsters instead," Sera said. "You made the kingdom hate what I was. I made them fear magic so they wouldn't look too closely at you, so they wouldn't see the signs. But I still had to hide. I still had to pretend to be someone I wasn't. I know, and I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting you, but maybe I was just making it worse." It was the closest thing to an apology Sera had ever heard from him. She didn't know what to do with it. Elisa reached across the desk and took Aldrich's hand. "We can't change the past, but we can change the future, starting now. Revoke the ban on magic. Pardon the people you've imprisoned. Let the kingdom heal." Aldrich pulled his hand away. "It's not that simple. If I revoke the ban, people will question why I made it in the first place. They'll lose faith in me, maybe. Or maybe they'll see it as strength, as a king who can admit when he was wrong and choose a better path. Or they'll see it as weakness, and the nobles will move against me. The kingdom could fall into civil war. Then we handle the nobles, together." Elisa leaned forward. "I'm alive, Aldrich. That means something. The people loved me. They'll support this if I stand beside you. And if I refuse, then I challenge your authority, claim the throne as the rightful queen, and you become the enemy." Elisa's voice was gentle but unyielding. "I don't want to do that. I don't want to fight you. But I will if I have to. For Sera, for this kingdom." Aldrich stared at her. Then he started laughing. It wasn't a happy sound. It was bitter, exhausted. 17 years, he said. 17 years of ruling alone, making impossible choices, becoming the villain so the kingdom could survive, and you come back and threaten to take it all away in a day. I'm not taking anything away. I'm asking you to be better, to be the man I married. That man is dead, Elisa. He died the same day you left. No, he's still in there. I can see him. She gestured to Sera. You protected our daughter, even if you did it badly. You kept the kingdom together, even if you did it through fear. You're not a good man anymore, Aldrich, but you could be again. Sera watched her father's face, saw the conflict there, the war between pride and love, power and redemption. Finally, he stood. I need time, real time, not a day or two. I need to think about all of this, to figure out how to undo 17 years of policy without destroying everything. How long? Elisa asked. A week, maybe 2. I'll call a council meeting, discuss options with my advisors, and then I'll make a decision. And in the meantime, you 3 stay in the palace, as guests. No arrests, no executions, no punishment. But you don't leave. And you don't speak to anyone about what happened in the Hollow until I've decided how to proceed. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than being thrown in a dungeon. Agreed, Elisa said. Aldrich nodded to the guards. Show them to chambers, the Queen's old rooms for Elisa, the East Wing for the princess, and find somewhere appropriate for the boy. He stays near me, Seraphina said. Absolutely not. It's improper. I don't care about proper. He's not leaving my sight. Seraphina, father, I just spent 3 days traveling across the kingdom, sleeping in barns and running from guards and descending into a cursed underground temple with him. I think propriety is the least of our concerns. Aldrich looked like he wanted to argue. Then he sighed. Fine. Put him in the room next to the princess, but if I hear even a whisper of scandal, he's gone. Understood? Understood. They were escorted out, leaving Aldrich alone in his study. As they walked through the palace halls, Asher leaned close to Sera. Your family is intense. You have no idea. So what now? We just wait around while your father decides whether to execute us or make us heroes. Basically. Great. Love that plan. No problems there. Sera smiled despite everything. Welcome to palace life. They were shown to chambers in the East Wing. Sera's old rooms, untouched since she'd left. Everything was exactly as she'd left it. Her books, her desk, her bed with its purple silk sheets. A lifetime ago, this had been her whole world. Now it felt like a cage. Asher was given the room next door, connected by a shared sitting room. The guards left them alone, finally. Elisa had been taken to her old chambers. She'd wanted to stay with Sera, but Aldrich had insisted, probably trying to reassert some kind of control over the situation. Sera collapsed onto her bed and stared at the ceiling. We did it, she said. We actually survived. Asher lay down beside her. We did. Now we just have to survive your father. Minor detail. They lay in silence for a moment. Then Asher took her hand. Whatever happens, whatever your father decides, we're in this together, right? Sera squeezed his hand. Right. Good, because I'm not going anywhere, even if he tries to exile me to the far end of the kingdom. He might. Then I'll sneak back. I'm good at sneaking, remember? I broke into the palace once. I can do it again. Sera laughed. It felt good to laugh. Like maybe, despite everything, they were going to be okay. Outside the window, the sun was setting over Rathmore. The storms were gone. The sky was clear, and for the first time in 17 years, the kingdom had hope. Now they just had to convince a stubborn king to embrace it. End of Chapter 13. Chapter 14. The Serpent's Smile. A week had passed since their return to the palace, and everything had changed. The storms that had plagued the kingdom for years were gone. Reports came in daily from across the realm, crops growing stronger, rivers running clear, the sick recovering. The curse was truly broken. Sera stood on her balcony, watching the sun rise over Rathmore. No clouds, no unnatural darkness, just golden light painting the city in warm colors. You're up early. She turned to find Asher in the doorway between their rooms, his hair sticking up at odd angles. Couldn't sleep, she admitted. Today's the day. Father makes his decision. About the magic ban, about everything. The ban, us, the future of the kingdom. She turned back to the view. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for him to change his mind and throw us all in the dungeons. Asher came to stand beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. He won't. Your mother won't let him. She's been spending every day with him, trying to reach the man he used to be. Sera sighed. I don't know if that man exists anymore. People can change. Look at us. A week ago, we had magic. Now we're just two normal people standing on a balcony worrying about politics. Normal? Right. Sera looked at him. Do you miss it? The magic? Asher was quiet for a moment. Sometimes, when I see someone hurt and know I can't heal them anymore, but then I remember the fear. Always hiding, always worried someone would find out. And I think maybe this is better. Even if it means we're ordinary. We're not ordinary. We broke a 300-year-old curse and brought a dead queen back to life. That's pretty extraordinary, even without magic. Sera smiled. When you put it like that. A knock at the door interrupted them. Come in, Sera called. The door opened and a man entered. Tall, thin, with grey hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. His clothes were expensive but understated, and he moved with the kind of grace that came from years of navigating palace politics. Lord Corvus, her father's chief advisor. Sera had never liked him. There was something about his eyes, too calculating, too cold, but he'd been nothing but helpful since their return, supporting their cause, arguing for leniency. Princess, Master Asher, he bowed precisely. The king requests your presence in the throne room. The council is assembling. Now? Sera asked. Within the hour. He wishes to speak with you privately first. Is my mother there? Queen Elisa is with him, yes. Corvus's smile was thin. She's been quite persuasive this week. I believe the king has come to see reason. You've been advocating for us, Asher said. Why? Corvus turned that cold gaze on him. Because the curse is broken. The kingdom is healing. Only a fool would argue against such obvious success. And I am many things, but not a fool. Something about the way he said it made Sera's skin crawl. We'll be there shortly, she said. Corvus bowed again. Excellent. Oh, and Princess? You might wish to wear something more formal. The entire court will be present for the announcement. He left, closing the door softly behind him. I don't trust him, Asher said immediately. Neither do I, but he's been helping us. Has he? Or has he just been agreeing with whatever your mother says? Sera considered this. You think he's playing politics? I think he's playing something. Did you see his eyes when he mentioned the curse being broken? He didn't look happy. He looked disappointed. You're being paranoid. Maybe, but after everything we've been through, a little paranoia seems healthy. Sera couldn't argue with that. She changed into a formal gown, deep blue with silver embroidery. It felt strange after days of simple clothes. Heavy, restrictive. Asher had been given court clothes too. A dark doublet and trousers that actually fit properly. He looked uncomfortable but handsome. Ready? He asked. No, but let's go anyway. They walked through the palace halls together. Servants bowed as they passed, but there were also smiles. Genuine ones. Word had spread about what they'd done, about the curse being broken. For the first time in her life, Sera felt like people were seeing her as more than just the princess. They were seeing her as someone who'd saved them. The throne room doors were closed, but they could hear voices inside. Must consider the implications, someone was saying. If we revoke the ban entirely, there could be chaos. Or there could be celebration, Elisa's voice responded. The people are already celebrating. The curse is broken. The storms are gone. They know something has changed. But they don't know the full truth, another voice said. Aldrich. They don't know that magic users broke the curse. If we reveal that, if we legitimize magic after 17 years of persecution, the political ramifications will be significant but manageable, Corvus interrupted smoothly. Your Majesty, if I may. The princess and her companion have arrived. How did he know that? They hadn't knocked yet. The doors swung open. Inside, the throne room was packed, not just the small council, but dozens of nobles, advisors, and court officials, all watching as Sera and Asher entered. Aldrich sat on his throne, crown gleaming in the morning light. Elisa stood beside him, not on a throne of her own, but in a position of clear authority, and at the king's right hand stood Corvus, his expression unreadable. Approach, Aldrich commanded. Sera and Asher walked forward, stopping at the appropriate distance. Father, Sera said, curtsying. Aldrich studied them for a long moment, then he stood. Lords and ladies of the court, he began, his voice carrying through the room. 7 days ago, my daughter returned from a journey that should have killed her. She entered the Thornwood, descended into the Hollow, and faced magic older than this kingdom itself. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She was accompanied by this young man, Asher, a blacksmith's apprentice with hidden magical abilities. More murmurs, some hostile. Together, they did what no one else could. They broke the curse that has plagued our kingdom for 17 years. The murmurs turned to gasps. The failing crops, the unnatural storms, the spreading sickness, all of it was caused by an ancient magical debt that had gone unpaid for centuries. My daughter and this boy paid that debt. They sacrificed their own magic, their own power, to save us all. Aldrich paused, letting the words sink in. In light of this, I have made a decision. Everyone held their breath. The ban on magic is hereby revoked. The throne room erupted. Some people cheered, others shouted in protest. A few looked terrified. Aldrich raised his hand for silence. Furthermore, all those imprisoned for magical practices will be reviewed and, if found guilty of no other crimes, released. We will establish new laws, new protections, to ensure that magic users and non-magical citizens can coexist peacefully. This is madness, someone shouted from the crowd. A Lord Sera didn't recognize. Your Majesty, you've spent 17 years teaching us that magic is evil. And I was wrong, Aldrich said simply. Those 3 words stunned the room into silence. The king never admitted he was wrong. Never. Magic itself is not evil, Aldrich continued. How it's used determines its morality. We will regulate it, yes. We will ensure it's not used to harm others. But we will no longer persecute people simply for being born with abilities they didn't choose. Sera could barely believe what she was hearing. This was more than she'd hoped for. She glanced at Corvus. His expression was still neutral, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of something dark. There is one more matter, Aldrich said. My daughter and this young man, Asher, their actions saved the kingdom. They deserve recognition. He gestured to Asher. Step forward. Asher looked uncertain but obeyed. Kneel. Asher knelt. Aldrich drew his sword. The crowd gasped. For a horrible moment, Sera thought her father was about to execute him. But then Aldrich laid the blade gently on Asher's shoulder. For services to the crown and kingdom, for bravery beyond measure, for sacrifice without expectation of reward, I knight you. Rise, Sir Asher. Asher stood slowly, looking stunned. A blacksmith's apprentice had just been made a knight. It was unprecedented. Additionally, Aldrich said, turning to address the crowd again, I formally recognize the relationship between Sir Asher and Princess Seraphina. They have my blessing to court properly. Sera's face went hot. Her father had just publicly acknowledged her relationship with Asher, in front of the entire court. Your Majesty, Corvus said smoothly, stepping forward. While we all celebrate these momentous decisions, perhaps we should discuss the practical implications. How will we announce this to the kingdom? How will we handle those who resist the changes? Wise questions, Lord Corvus, Aldrich said. We'll need to craft the message carefully, perhaps a series of declarations, each one building on the last. I volunteer to oversee the process, Corvus said. I can ensure the transition is smooth, that the people understand the necessity of these changes. Your dedication is appreciated, as always, Elisa said. But there was something in her tone, a hint of suspicion. Did she sense something too? We should also consider a celebration, Corvus continued. The kingdom hasn't had cause for joy in 17 years, a festival perhaps, to mark the end of the curse and the beginning of a new era. Excellent idea, Aldrich agreed. I can begin preparations immediately. With your permission, of course. Granted, Corvus bowed. As he straightened, his eyes met Sera's for just a moment, and in that moment she saw something that chilled her. Satisfaction, like pieces on a game board had just moved exactly where he wanted them. Then it was gone, and he was the helpful advisor again. The rest of the court session was a blur of congratulations, questions, and political maneuvering. Sera and Asher stood together, accepting well wishes from nobles who'd never acknowledged their existence before. Finally, after what felt like hours, they were dismissed. As they left the throne room, Sera pulled Asher into an alcove. Did you see it? She whispered. See what? Corvus. When my father agreed to the festival, he looked pleased. Too pleased. Maybe he just likes parties. Or maybe he's planning something. Sera, we won. The curse is broken, the ban is lifted. Your father just made me a knight. Can't we just enjoy it for 5 minutes? She wanted to. She really did, but something felt wrong. My mother looked suspicious too. Did you notice? Asher sighed. Yes, but what can we do? We have no proof of anything. He's been nothing but supportive. Exactly. That's what worries me. Corvus has been my father's advisor for 17 years. He helped create and enforce the magic ban, and now suddenly he's completely fine with reversing everything. Maybe he genuinely believes it's the right thing. Or maybe he has his own agenda. Before Asher could respond, Lyra appeared around the corner. There you are. She practically tackled Sera in a hug. I heard everything. The ban is lifted. You're heroes. Sera hugged her back, grateful for her friend's enthusiasm. How have you been? Sera asked. I've barely seen you all week. Your father had me questioned, repeatedly, about your disappearance, about whether I knew where you'd gone. Lyra pulled back, grinning. I lied brilliantly, by the way. Told them I thought you were sick in your chambers the whole time. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm just glad you're alive. Lyra looked at Asher. Both of you, and Sir Asher now. Who would have thought? Not me, Asher said. I still can't believe it. Believe it. You're nobility now. Sort of. Knight nobility. Lyra's expression turned sly, which means you can officially court the princess without causing a complete scandal. Lyra, Sera warned. What? It's true. Before, he was just a commoner. Now he's Sir Asher, hero of the realm. Much more acceptable. They talked for a few more minutes, but Sera's mind kept drifting back to Corvus. That look in his eyes. That satisfaction. What was he planning? Later that evening, there was a private dinner. Just family, Aldrich, Elisa, Sera, and Asher. It was awkward at first. 17 years of absence and anger couldn't be erased in a week. But slowly, they found a rhythm. Aldrich asked about their journey. Elisa told stories from her youth. Asher made a joke that actually got the king to smile. For a moment, it felt almost normal, like they were a real family. Then Corvus entered. Apologies for the interruption, your majesties, but I have news. What kind of news? Aldrich asked. Word has spread about the lifted ban, faster than expected. We're receiving reports of spontaneous celebrations in several cities, but also, he paused dramatically. Resistance. Some lords are refusing to accept the decree. They're claiming it's a trick, that magic users have enchanted the royal family. Aldrich's face darkened. Which lords? Lord Blackstone of the Eastern Provinces, Lord Wraith of the Northern Territories, a few others. They're demanding proof that the curse is truly broken and that your majesties are acting of your own free will. Fools, Aldrich muttered. Perhaps, but dangerous fools. They have armies, influence. If they unite against the crown, Corvus let the threat hang in the air. What do you recommend? Elisa asked. A show of strength and unity. The festival I mentioned earlier, we could use it as an opportunity. Invite all the lords, demonstrate that the royal family is united and strong. Show them the princess and Sir Asher, the heroes who broke the curse. Make it impossible for them to deny the truth. It sounded reasonable, logical, so why did Sera feel like they were walking into a trap? How long would you need to prepare? Aldrich asked. 2 weeks, perhaps 3. We want it to be spectacular, unforgettable. Very well, make it happen, Corvus bowed. It will be my pleasure, your majesty. He left, and the family dinner continued, but Sera couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to go very, very wrong. That night, she found her mother on a balcony, looking out over the city. You don't trust him either, Sera said. Elisa didn't deny it. Corvus has always been ambitious, but these past 17 years, while I was gone, something's changed in him. Do you think he's planning something? I think he's always planning something. The question is what? Elisa turned to her daughter. Be careful at this festival. Both you and Asher, stay together, stay visible, and don't eat or drink anything that hasn't been tested first. You think he'd try to poison us? I think a man who helped burn hundreds of magic users isn't going to simply accept them being pardoned overnight. He's playing a longer game. Then why don't we stop him? Because we have no proof, and because your father trusts him. Corvus has been his closest advisor for 17 years. He won't believe accusations without evidence, so we just wait for him to make his move? We watch, we prepare, and we hope we're wrong. Elisa pulled Sera into a hug. You've been through so much already. I wish I could protect you from this. I don't need protection. I need information. What else do you know about Corvus? Elisa was quiet for a moment. He lost someone to magic, years ago, before I met your father. His wife, I think. Or his daughter. The details were never clear, but it drove his hatred of magic users. Then why would he support lifting the ban? That's the question, isn't it? They stood together in silence, mother and daughter, watching the lights of the city below. Somewhere out there, Corvus was preparing something, and Sera had a feeling that breaking the curse was only the beginning of their troubles. End of chapter 14. Chapter 15, The Festival of Lies. The night of the festival arrived faster than Sera expected. 2 weeks of preparation had transformed Rathmore into something from a fairy tale. Lanterns hung from every building, casting warm light over streets filled with music and laughter. The palace gardens had been opened to the public for the first time in 17 years. Sera stood before her mirror, wearing a gown of deep red silk that seemed to glow in the candlelight. Lyra was fixing her hair, weaving small white flowers through the dark strands. "You look beautiful," Lyra said, "like a hero from the old stories." "I don't feel like a hero. I feel like I'm about to walk into a trap." "Maybe you are, but at least you'll look good doing it." A knock at the door interrupted them. Asher entered, and Sera's breath caught. He wore formal attire befitting his new status as a knight, a dark blue coat with silver trim, the sword at his hip bearing the royal seal. He looked uncomfortable but undeniably handsome. "You clean up well," Sera said. "You look—" He trailed off, just staring at her. "Like a princess?" "Like yourself, which is better than any princess." Lyra made a gagging sound. "You two are disgustingly sweet. I'm leaving before I throw up." She swept out, leaving them alone. Asher crossed to Sera and took her hands. "Are you ready for this?" "No. Every instinct I have is screaming that something's going to go wrong tonight." "Mine too, but your mother has guards positioned everywhere. She's been planning for every contingency. Corvus has been planning too. For 2 weeks, he's been overseeing everything. The food, the entertainment, the guest list. If he wants to do something, tonight's his perfect opportunity. Then we stay alert, we watch for anything unusual. In a festival with fire breathers, acrobats, and newly pardoned magic users showing off their abilities, everything's going to be unusual." Before Asher could respond, another knock came. Elisa entered, resplendent in a gown of midnight blue. "It's time," she said. "The lords have arrived. All of them, even the ones who opposed the changes. Corvus really did get everyone here." "That worries me more than if they'd refused," Sera said. "Me too, but we can't show fear. Tonight we're celebrating. We're strong. We're united." Elisa's expression softened. "And I'm proud of you, both of you. Whatever happens tonight, remember that." They made their way through the palace to the grand ballroom. The doors were closed, but they could hear the crowd inside. Hundreds of voices, music, laughter. Aldrich was waiting by the doors, his crown gleaming. He looked older than he had even a week ago, the weight of recent changes showing in new lines around his eyes. "Ready?" he asked. "As we'll ever be," Elisa said, taking his arm. It was strange seeing them together. 17 years of separation couldn't be bridged in 2 weeks. But they were trying. The doors opened, and a herald announced them. Their Majesties, King Aldrich and Queen Elisa, Her Highness, Princess Seraphina, and Sir Asher, Knight of the Realm and Breaker of Curses. They entered to thunderous applause. The ballroom was packed. Lords and ladies in their finest clothes, merchants who'd earned invitations through wealth or favor, and scattered throughout, people in simpler attire, the pardoned magic users, invited as guests of honor. Sera scanned the crowd and spotted him immediately. Corvus, standing near the center of the room, smiling and chatting with a group of lords. He looked up and met her eyes, raised his glass in a small toast. A chill ran down her spine. The next hour was a blur of greetings, congratulations, and political maneuvering. Sera and Asher moved through the crowd together, accepting praise for breaking the curse, deflecting questions about their relationship, trying to keep track of potential threats. Then the king called for silence. "Lords and ladies," Aldrich began, his voice carrying through the room, "we gather tonight to celebrate a new era. The curse is broken. The kingdom is healing. And we move forward together, magical and non-magical citizens alike, toward a brighter future." Applause rippled through the crowd. "But tonight is also about acknowledging mistakes," Aldrich continued. "For 17 years, I ruled through fear. I persecuted innocent people because I was afraid of what I didn't understand. That ends now." He gestured to the pardoned magic users. "These citizens have been wronged, their families destroyed, their lives upended. No apology can undo that damage, but we can ensure it never happens again." More applause, though some of the lords looked uncomfortable. "And so," Aldrich said, "I propose a new law. Magic users will not only be legal, but protected. Any violence against them will be punished severely. They will have representation in government, a voice in how this kingdom moves forward." The crowd erupted, some cheering, others shouting in protest. Lord Blackstone stepped forward. "Your Majesty, this is too much. Too fast. The people need time to adjust." "The people are already adjusting," Elisa said, moving to stand beside her husband. "Look at this room. Former enemies standing together, celebrating together. This is what the kingdom can be. Pretty words, Lord Wraith called out. But how do we know this isn't magic itself? How do we know you haven't been enchanted? Because we invited someone to verify the truth, Corvus said smoothly, stepping into the center of the room. Everyone turned to look at him. Lords and ladies, may I present Master Theron from the Northern Academy, a scholar of ancient magics and detection of enchantments. An elderly man in robes stepped forward. Sera had never seen him before. I have examined their majesties, Master Theron announced, and I can confirm they are under no magical influence. Their decisions are their own. Relief rippled through the crowd, but something about the way Corvus was smiling made Sera's stomach turn. Furthermore, Master Theron continued, I have examined the site of the broken curse. The hollow is indeed cleansed. The magical debt is paid. You see, Corvus said, addressing the crowd, everything the royal family has told you is true. The curse is broken. Magic can return safely to our kingdom. He picked up a glass of wine from a nearby table and raised it high. I propose a toast to King Aldric and Queen Elisa, to Princess Seraphina and Sir Asher, to the new era of magic and prosperity. Everyone reached for glasses. Servants had been circulating with wine all evening. Sera picked up a glass, but Asher caught her wrist. Wait, he whispered. Others were already drinking, laughing, celebrating. Then someone screamed. A woman near the back of the room collapsed, convulsing. Then a man, then another. All around the room, people who'd drunk the wine were falling. Poison, someone shouted. Chaos erupted. People running, screaming, pushing toward the doors, but the doors slammed shut. Locked. And Corvus stood in the center of it all, no longer smiling. Did you really think, he said, his voice carrying, despite the panic, that I would let 17 years of work be undone in a fortnight? Aldric stepped forward, hand on his sword. Corvus, what have you done? What I should have done years ago. Corvus pulled something from his robes, a crystal dark as night, pulsing with power. You were weak, Aldric. You had the chance to purge magic from this kingdom completely, and you hesitated. You let your love for your cursed daughter cloud your judgment. The people you've poisoned aren't dead yet. Corvus smiled coldly. The poison is magical. Appropriate, don't you think? It will kill them slowly, painfully. Unless what? Elisa demanded. Unless you abdicate, all of you. Sign the kingdom over to me, and I'll provide the antidote. You're insane, Sera said. Am I? Look around you, princess. 30 people are dying. Lords, ladies, innocent servants. Every minute you delay, they get closer to death. Indeed, the poisoned victims were writhing in agony. Their skin was turning grey, black veins spreading across their faces. I know that poison, Master Theron said, and his voice was different now. Younger, stronger. Because I created it. He pulled off his robes, and underneath was a younger man. Dark hair, cruel eyes, features that looked familiar somehow. My son, Corvus said proudly. You didn't think I was working alone, did you? We've been planning this for years, placing people in positions of power, collecting magical artifacts from every person you burned. He held up the dark crystal. Do you know what this is? It's crystallized magic, extracted from dying magic users at the moment of their execution. Hundreds of them, their power condensed into this. You're a magic user, Asher said, understanding dawning in his eyes. Oh yes, my whole family was. Until your precious King Aldric started his purge. Corvus's face twisted with hatred. My wife was burned first, then my daughter. My son only survived because he was away studying. So this is revenge, Aldric said. This is justice. You destroyed hundreds of families, now I'm destroying yours. More people were collapsing. The poison was spreading somehow, affecting even those who hadn't drunk the wine. It's in the air now, Corvus's son said. Once activated, the poison becomes airborne. In an hour, everyone in this room will be dead. Except us, of course. We took the antidote beforehand. Give us the antidote, Elisa said. Please, these people are innocent. Innocent? Half of them supported the magic ban. They cheered while my family burned. Corvus stepped closer to the royal family. But I'm not unreasonable. Abdicate. Name me king, and I'll save them. And then what? Sera asked. You'll rule through fear, just like my father did. No, I'll rule through power. Magic will be legal, yes, but only for those who serve me. Only for those who prove their loyalty. He smiled. I'll create an empire of magic users with me at the top, and anyone who opposes me will face the same fate your father gave my family. You're no better than he was, Asher said. You're just replacing one tyrant with another. Perhaps, but I'll be a tyrant with vision, with purpose. Corvus raised the crystal higher, and it began to glow. Decide quickly. Your people are dying. Sera looked around the room. People were collapsing faster now. Even some who'd seemed fine moments ago were starting to show symptoms, including Lyra. Her friend was on her knees, black veins spreading up her neck. No! Sera ran to her, dropping beside her. Lyra, hold on! Sera, Lyra gasped. Can't breathe. Sera looked at her parents, at Asher, at the dying people all around them. They had no choice. We'll do it, she said. Sera, no, Asher said. We have to. We can't let them all die. Smart girl, Corvus said. He produced a document from his robes. Sign this. All of you. Abdicate your claims to the throne. Aldrich stepped forward. I'll sign, but let my family go. They don't need to. All of you sign, or no one gets the antidote. Elisa took the quill first. She signed her name with a steady hand. Aldrich followed. Sera stood, Lyra's weakening grip still in her hand. She took the quill. But as she put it to paper, she saw something. A flicker of movement in the shadows near the windows. The Warden. He was here. How? He held a finger to his lips, then gestured to Asher. Asher saw him too. Understanding passed between them. Before I sign, Sera said, playing for time, I want to know something. The curse. Did you have anything to do with it? Corvus laughed. The curse? No, that was all your family's doing. Centuries of greed and magical theft. But I did encourage your father's paranoia about it. Whispered in his ear about how dangerous magic was. Helped him decide to ban it entirely. So you've been manipulating him for 17 years. Every king needs advisors. I just made sure he heard what I wanted him to hear. And now you want to be king yourself. I don't want to be king. I am king. You're just formalizing it. Sera started to sign, but deliberately dropped the quill. As she bent to pick it up, she whispered one word, hoping Asher would hear. Now. Asher moved, not toward Corvus, but toward the dark crystal. At the same moment, the Warden struck from the shadows, ancient magic crackling from his fingers. Corvus's son shouted a warning, but too late. Asher grabbed the crystal. The moment his hands touched it, everything changed. Light exploded from him. Not gentle, healing light, but something else, something powerful. The crystal was reacting to him, to the residual magic in his blood, the traces left behind from what he'd given up. No, Corvus screamed. That's impossible. You have no magic. I don't, Asher said through gritted teeth. But this crystal does, and it remembers me, remembers all of us. The crystal shattered. Magic erupted outward, not dark and poisonous, but pure. The condensed power of hundreds of magic users, finally free. It washed over the room like a wave. The poisoned victims gasped as the black veins receded. The locked doors burst open. And Corvus and his son were thrown backward by the force of it. But Corvus wasn't finished. He pulled another artifact from his robes, an amulet that blazed with dark fire. If I can't rule, he snarled, then you'll all burn. He raised the amulet, and flames began to spread across the floor. But they didn't get far. Because Queen Elisa stepped forward, and for the first time in 17 years, she used magic. You're not the only one who hid their power, she said. Ice erupted from her hands, meeting Corvus's flames. The two forces clashed, sending everyone scrambling back. Mother, Sera gasped, you still have magic? I never lost it. I hid it, suppressed it, to protect you, to protect everyone. Elisa's eyes were glowing with cold light. But I'm done hiding. The battle was brief but intense. Fire against ice, hatred against love. In the end, Elisa was stronger. Corvus's flames died. The amulet cracked and went dark. He stood there, powerless, defeated. Guards, Aldrich commanded, arrest them both. Guards flooded in, seizing Corvus and his son. But as they were being dragged away, Corvus looked back at Sera. This isn't over, he said. I have allies, people you'd never suspect. The kingdom will burn, with or without me. We'll stop them, Sera said, just like we stopped you. Corvus laughed. You have no idea what's coming, princess. The curse was just the beginning. There are older magics, darker powers, and they're waking up. He was dragged out, still laughing. The ballroom was in chaos. People were recovering from the poison, but everyone was shaken. The celebration had turned into a nightmare. Elisa collapsed, the magical effort having drained her. Mom! Sera caught her. I'm all right, just tired. It's been so long since I used that much power. Why didn't you tell me you still had magic? Because I thought I'd never use it again. When I came back from the well, I found my magic had returned, changed but present. I chose to hide it, thinking the kingdom needed healing more than it needed another magic user. But you saved us. We all saved each other. That's what family does. Asher approached, rubbing his hands. They were burned from holding the crystal. How did you know that would work? Sera asked him. I didn't. I just hoped. The crystal was made from magic users' power. I thought maybe it would recognize that we were trying to save people, not hurt them. That was insanely risky. Everything we do is insanely risky. The warden appeared beside them. You did well. Both of you. How are you here? Sera asked. I've been watching. When Corvus started gathering dark artifacts, I knew something was wrong. I've been in the city for days, waiting. So you knew this would happen. I suspected. Corvus has been planning this for years. But he's right about one thing. This isn't over. He has allies, and there are other threats awakening. What threats? Aldrich asked, approaching them. The warden looked grim. The breaking of the curse has sent ripples through the magical world. Ancient things that have been sleeping are beginning to stir. The balance of power is shifting. Meaning what? Meaning your kingdom is about to face challenges you can't imagine. The curse was containing more than just corrupted magic. It was holding back things that should have stayed buried. Then we'll face them, Sera said, together. You don't have magic anymore, neither does Asher. We'll find another way. We always do. The warden smiled sadly. Perhaps you will, but the cost may be higher than you think. He started to leave, then paused. There's something else. Corvus mentioned older magics. He's not wrong. There are powers in this world far older and darker than anything you've faced. And some of them have been watching you. Watching us. Why? Because you did something impossible. You broke a curse that should have been unbreakable. That kind of power draws attention, both good and bad. With that ominous warning, he vanished into the crowd. The rest of the night was spent dealing with the aftermath, tending to the poisoned, securing the palace, questioning guests to find any other conspirators. By dawn, order had been restored. Corvus and his son were in the dungeons. The poisoned victims had all recovered. The festival, despite everything, was being called a success, proof that the kingdom could face any threat. But Sera knew better. Standing on her balcony as the sun rose, Asher beside her, she could feel it. A change in the air, a tension that hadn't been there before. He was right, she said. This isn't over. No, Asher agreed. But we survived. We stopped him. That counts for something. He has allies, people we don't know about, and apparently we've attracted the attention of ancient powers. Then we'll be ready for them. Sera looked at him. How can you be so calm? Because I'm with you, and together we've already done the impossible once. We can do it again. We don't have magic anymore. Your mother does, and there are others, the pardoned magic users. They'll help. We're not alone in this. Sera leaned against him, drawing comfort from his presence. I love you, she said. The words came out without planning, but she didn't regret them. Asher turned her to face him. I love you too. Whatever comes next, whatever we have to face, that won't change. They kissed as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and rose. Below them, the city was waking up. People were already in the streets, cleaning up from the festival, going about their lives. They didn't know about the threats gathering in the shadows, about Corvus's allies or the ancient powers stirring. But they would face those threats when they came, together. The kingdom had survived the curse. It had survived Corvus's betrayal. It would survive whatever came next. In the dungeon below, Corvus sat in his cell, smiling. They thought they'd won. They had no idea. His hand went to his chest, where beneath his shirt, a mark glowed faintly. A symbol older than the kingdom, older than the curse. A promise, a contract, a debt that would be collected. Soon, he whispered to the darkness, very soon. Miles away, in a tower that hadn't existed the day before, something ancient opened its eyes. The curse was broken, the balance was shifted, and the real game was about to begin. End of Book 1, Kingdom of Ash and Secrets. Awakening, to be continued in Kingdom of Ash and Secrets, Forbidden. Dear reader, thank you for joining Sera and Asher on their journey. You've walked through cursed forests, faced ancient magic, and witnessed impossible choices. I'm so grateful you chose to spend your time in their world.